Good evening. We will be starting with our special meeting here, calling to order. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sandy, if you could please read our mission statement and take roll.
At Richmond Community Schools, we provide a quality education that empowers students to be successful in a global community. And we'll do roll call. Candace?
Here.
Deb?
Here.
Kelly?
Here.
Angela?
Here.
Danielle?
Here.
Margaret?
Here.
And I am also presently at quorum.
Thank you. I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Do I have a support?
Support. Whoever. Daniel.
Either one. Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, this is our first public comment section. I'm going to, since our last meeting, I received 2 emails, both regarding the our board, our track board that was down in the gym. There were questions as far as what happened with the board. Several years ago, we were repainting the gym. In taking the board down, the board literally was coming apart in pieces. The intent was to save it and put it back up, but because it was falling apart in pieces, we could not put it back up. So the board is not around for me to give to anybody. We are willing to work with the family. We put a suggestion out that we would put a plaque up as a remembrance so that there would be something there, because the original board was donated to the district to memorialize a student that had graduated from here and died awfully young. So we will continue to work with the family to make sure that we have some kind of acknowledgement underneath the track thing. They just need to work with us and we'll get something there. At this time, any member of the public may address the board. Please sign in and state your name. You have 3 minutes to address the board. Are there any public comments?
I'm Paul Smith, Danielle's father. When they first took it down, somebody stole the devil head. I seen the board in storage. I talked to a young lady that was on the board here. She says she's trying to locate the head. I know the corner was bent. And she says she's sorry that they were going to try to fix it. I'm not putting her name underneath the plaque you got up there now. That's the original plaque I wanted to put up, and they told me no. A ball would hit it, glass would break, students would get hurt. So this is why we went with this one. All of a sudden, from 1990 to now, the laws changed. Nah. The person that built this board I went through the gym teacher in 1990. So you can look him up. He went through another coach at a different school that builds them for all the schools in the surrounding area. That board cost me in the class of 92 $2,000. The money they donated at the funeral is that board. I didn't need it. I'm not rich. It's for the class of 92. Make it right. Build the exact board. Apologies to me and my family in the class of 92. And it's wash. Other than that, it's going to court. That's a monument. You don't destroy a monument. A monument don't get destroyed on a wall where nobody can touch it. I don't care how many balls hit it, it would not get destroyed. I seen it before they hung it up. It was built sturdy. In the storage room, everything was scattered. They couldn't find the letters. I had A through Z made about 10, 20 times for anybody's name to go up on that board. We put a lot of money and effort in that board. Now to me, it's a shame. When somebody wrecks a library book, what do? You make them pay for that library book. The same book, not something different because you like it better. That's all I have to say. Make it right, apologize to class of '92 and the family. Oh yeah, one more thing. After we donated it, in the Richmond Review, you know, the old paper that used to be free, a bunch of lady clubs donated the trees around the area. The school board thanked them through the newspaper. We didn't get a thank you. Must be the last name of Smith that they changed. I put an article in the review. 2 weeks later, I get a call. Come to the basketball game, such and such date, we're going to recognize you. You know what I got? A piece of paper. Not even a 99-cent picture frame. And what hurt more, they kept it a secret from the students because they didn't want to uprise. That's what this school board is. Do it my way or hit the highway. When the kids found out Monday, they were very upset. It's not about you people behind this desk. It's about the kids in the future. That's what this world is about, the kids. You can't run the kids' life. You can try to guide them, but you can't say you gotta do this, you gotta do that. That was ridiculous. Nobody knew about us getting a piece of paper saying thank you without even a picture frame. We still have it the way we received it. And I'll tell you, I want to show you something if I can come. This is what the kids thought of my daughter. You probably won't see a full-page picture of any of your students. She was a straight-A student here. I don't know if you want to see it. I'll bring it over.
Are you all set with your statement?
Martin?
Are you all set with your statement?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for your time.
Okay, next item on our agenda is our presentation on our designation of an electoral representative and alternative.
Every 2 years, the MISD holds their biannual election to vote for members of the Macomb Intermediate School District's Board of Education. The process is held over 2 meetings. The first meeting, the board determines which candidates from Richmond you want to send to cast the vote. So at tonight's meeting, you'll be deciding which board members want to go to the MISD on June 5th. And the second meeting, which will happen at the 7 o'clock meeting, you will actually designate which candidate you will be asking the board member or directing the board member to cast the vote. So tonight we're looking for 2 individuals, one to serve as the electoral representative and one to serve as an alternate if the electoral representative cannot attend or something happens to attend the election.
So do we have any volunteers?
Check the calendar. What day, June 5th?
Yes. June 5th.
And they give you a time frame, like, and I figured I don't know if I'm like 4 to 7, so you have to go during that time frame to cast the vote.
Do you know what the earliest time frame you would be assigned?
You're not assigned,
Oh.
you just show up during that period. It's kind of like the polling hours are open from.
Oh,
7 to
gotcha.
7. Your
Okay.
Polling hours cast it is.
Do they give you more than, like, how, do you know, like, how much of a time frame they normally give you? I mean, I'm still working at 4, is why I'm asking.
Let me check just.
So you can go
And I can
anytime
get there.
during that.
Between 4 and
Sure.
7.
I mean, I could go there after work. I think that this way, I can do it at 4 and have them. It would be closer to probably 7, but I don't know, but.
The window is usually a couple of hours then? Oh,
No, it's,
sorry.
on the memo that's in there, they don't have the time listed, but it's, I'd have to get that to you. I thought it was listed in the memo that the ISD sent.
Yeah, no, it's not listed. So,
Well, I had both Candace and Kelly, if you're okay.
yeah.
Because they're both, they
I don't want to
Just
make it
casting a
that.
vote, right, in the honor of our,
That's all it
but,
is.
yeah. Between the, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it
Well, we need to put it in, who wants to be the primary person?
Sure. Go ahead.
Okay, and then Kelly will be our alternate. I did, we need to make a
So we
motion.
make the now or the action and the execution.
Got it. Okay, at this point, I am looking for a motion to designate our representatives to vote for Richmond.
I motion to designate Candace Cunningham as to vote for the applicants of the MISD,
That's the total representative.
the electoral representative, and Kelly O'Donnell as the alternate.
Which will be held on Monday, June 5th, 2023, is out. Do I have support?
Support.
Okay, I got 2 supports. Any further discussion?
Do we talk about the candidates now or not until the
That's
next
okay.
one?
That's- This is just a motion.
Who's gonna
that
go
we're-
in? Okay.
yeah, We're getting our 2 representatives. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I, whoever we're picking, as long as it's not me.
That's what happens when you leave. the table. Motion carries. The special meeting will adjourn at 6:48, and then at 7 o'clock, we will start our regular meeting. Good evening. The regular meeting of the Richmond Board of Education will come to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sandy, if you could please read our mission statement and take roll.
At Richmond Community Schools, we provide a quality education that empowers students to be successful in the global community. Margaret?
Here.
Danielle?
Here.
Angela?
Here.
Kelly?
Here.
Deb?
Here.
Candace?
Here.
And I'm also here, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Before we approve agenda, we will be deleting one item off of 12. Action item number I is being removed. So whoever makes the motion, it will be an amended.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Support.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Do I have support?
Support.
Mr. Walmsley, any discussion?
In your packet, we have one resignation, Heather Yeldich, special education parapro. We have two new hires, Nina Mansfield and Haley Rejoicek. They will both be starting next school year. They are the elementary teachers' position to be determined as we do final schedules. Notice of appointment, Chase Churchill, he's currently a basketball coach. He will be a special education parapro to fill Mrs. Jones' vacancy. And Brandon Day is the evening event coordinator for the summer program. There were no errors brought to my attention regarding minutes from the last meeting.
Any questions for Ms. Wormsley?
Yes, those two teacher positions, you say it's for next school year because on our sheet it says this school year. Is it 23, 24?
Apologies, it's 23, 24. 23, 24.
And then for the parapro, the special ed parapro, that's just for the remainder of this school year? And then are we posting that job then?
That job, special ed was posted, and it was interviewed, and then now it's a candidate that was chosen for that position.
But the reference letter said that they're being hired for the remainder of the 22-23 school year. So that was just my question.
This particular parapro is a one-on-one parapro with a student. That student is graduating this year. So for this year, it will be a one-on-one, but it will be a special ed parapro.
Rolling into next year. Okay. Okay, then, Ms. Michon, I'm going to amend my motion to approve the personnel to reflect the change in the school year dates for the two elementary teachers.
I have a question too. Just looking at those new hires. You said they were both at the elementary school. One says Richmond High School, and then it says ES teacher.
Let's see, which one are you looking at?
The new hires for Miss Mansfield. It says Richmond High School, but then in the next column it says ES. Is that elementary teacher, or what's ES?
Are you on mine?
Right here.
Yeah,
No.
on the page.
On this page, it says underneath the Nina Mansfield, it says Richmond High School. That's what you're
But,
saying.
yeah, but what is ES?
Elementary school.
That's what I thought.
On the memorandum, it actually says the elementary. It doesn't say high school. I think it was
Eden's
just.
elementary school, that should have been, when personnel report was created, that should have been Will Umley.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure which school she was going to be in.
Now, both of them are replacing Mrs. Schroeder and Mrs. Studer's position in some fashion.
Was that another correction?
So 3 corrections there.
Okay. Okay, so we have 3 corrections on that amendment. Okay, any further
You have
you have to restate it?
No, I'm saying that I'm amending my motion, so whoever supported it has to support it again based on what I amended.
Support.
Thank you, Sandy. Okay, any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next item on our raves is our raves. I will start with,
Oh, yes, thank you, yes, I would like to make a rave today about the amazing production, The Little Mermaid, that was put on by the Richmond High School Theater Program. I want to give a special thank you to Brian Braun, the theater director, and his staff, and all of the volunteers that helped make this production possible. And I'd also like to give a special thank you to all the students for sharing their amazing talents with all of us. It was a professional level performance. It was so amazing. The voices and the talent within our district, we should really be proud of. And to be able to showcase that was amazing as a parent and a board member. And if you ever get a chance, please support the theater program. They're doing amazing things there.
thank you, Sandy.
So I'm just gonna ditto what Angela said. I also saw the play on last Sunday, and it was an amazing play. I thought it was I've seen a lot of different plays, high school, elementary level, and it was a very good play. But I was very impressed. I'm just gonna add one quick thing. I was very, very impressed with the costumes and the makeup of this play. They were beyond anything I've seen in a high school level. So good job, whoever did that.
Thank you. Danielle?
Just wrapping up the end of the year, I wanted to thank Ms. Staples and Ms. Smallwood for putting together that teacher cadet program this year and bringing that to the district. I know I've heard nothing but good things from the kids, and now that they're out of the classrooms that had them are missing them like crazy. Not only the teachers for the help, but the students are missing them too. So I think that was an amazing thing, and I'm excited to see that for next year too.
Thank you. Margaret? Good. Candace? Kelly?
Today, the boys varsity baseball is playing, and just prior to them taking the field, they did have the 12-year-old Little League team, which won a championship this weekend, and also the 9-year-old Little League team that also won a championship this weekend. So they all got to go out with their respective players onto the field, on the varsity field, which I know the kids get such a kick out of that. So I just want to thank the coaching staff for always doing that and supporting the younger kids to help bring them up into the sports.
Thank you. At this time, I'm going to turn over to Margaret Telto to introduce our student rep that will be starting in August.
Thank you. Yes. Come on up, Connor. I would like to introduce Connor Bergeon. Connor is a junior at the high school, and he applied for our position for student board representative, and it is a position that we haven't had on the board for about 3 years, and it is something that the board has wanted to do to be able to get a student voice. And Mrs. Sutton and Mrs. Fortuna and I were part of the committee. We interviewed him. To say that he wowed us, I think, is probably a pretty good thing. And he had questions for us, which always impresses me when you ask someone, do you have any questions? He said, oh yes, I have some questions for you guys. One of which was, why are we doing the 7-hour day at the high school? So he could report back to the high school students. So we are excited to have Connor. He's going to start with us in August. But we invited him here this evening so he could kind of get a feel of what we're doing and so that he could meet the rest of the board members. So we're excited to have him start in August. Welcome. Would you like to say anything?
I would like to thank everyone for this opportunity. It was definitely a one-time experience for me. I've watched many board meetings, and kind of now this will give me an understanding of what actually happens inside our school. So thank you for this opportunity.
Excellent.
We look forward to having you.
Yes.
Okay.
You got the good seat right next to me. I don't know whether he'll think that as he comes around, but that's what he gets now.
I need to talk to you later. No. Okay, next item on our agenda is our presentation, our business and operational. We're going to look at candidate selection for the Macomb Intermediate School District. Mr. Walmsley.
So at the 6:45, you elected your board members to go cast the vote. Now you need to decide who they're casting the vote for. There are 3 candidates that are running for 2 positions. Tanya France, Michael Schulte, who's an incumbent, and Brian White, who's also an incumbent. I don't know if you've received things directly from them, but I've received nothing as far as candidate information from the candidates. So at this point, you'd have the discussion of who you'd like to narrow it down to the 2, and then you do the action item later on to appoint the 2.
Okay, so at this time, is there anyone on the board who wishes to give their opinion or state who they would like to see, and we'll kind of start from there?
Yes.
Margaret? Go.
I would like to see us talk about supporting the new candidate who is from New Haven. The board, the Macomb ISD School Board is made up of a lot of people from the other end of the county. And I was really excited when I saw someone from New Haven. I don't know this person, I don't know anything about them other than what we received on them. But I just think it would be a good idea, go somebody new, somebody that represents our end of the county with that kind of voice. So that's where I'm coming from.
That's, honestly, that's literally what I have here in my notes from here. I like the fact that she's close to Richmond, because so many things with the ISD are so south of us, so it would be nice to get somebody that was representing more our region. I did do a little bit of research on her though, and what I did see, I did like. I mean, basically she's very student focused. She's been the president on the New Haven School Board for several years. So that she also has my support.
I agree with
Yes.
Margaret.
Same here. That's who I had, that's what my notes were.
Okay, do we have any, I guess on the other two comments?
Right. The only thing I can tell you is I don't know Michael Schulte at all. I wouldn't even be able to pick him out. I do know Brian White. I've interacted with him over the years, so that's really the only thing that I can say. He's been around. He's been on ISD board probably 6 years at least.
Six or 8 years, he's been there for a little bit.
Yeah.
I did do a little bit of, digging on it too. I mean, I'm the investigator, but anyways, my second, would be for Brian White. Out of the two, we did get letters, I think, from both of those candidates. But we also got, I think I got at least an email from Brian White again today or yesterday. Sorry, my brain still might be halfway on vacation, I apologize. But he seems to be very passionate about the special education part. So that would be my two people that I would support, I suppose.
That's who I was supporting. I like just the fact that he did do another email to remind us to vote and what he stood for. So that would be my second choice. We good? We good?
I'm good, I agree with you.
Okay. Ms. Mosley, do you have our two?
So when we get to the action item, whoever's going to motion, we just need to insert
The names.
Candace and Kelly as the designee. It says highlighted on the resolution picked at 6:45. And then the two names, Tanya France and Brian White then. in that motion.
Okay, thank you. Our next presentation is the fiscal budget discussion. Mr. Walmsley.
Okay, we have been talking for a couple weeks now on the budget. So
That's mine, I'm sorry.
That's
I'm
why I
lefty.
can't get it.
That's wrong. You don't want
No, you're good.
to, I'll put it here and I will just do it lefty that way. I know.
No, you're good. I just couldn't figure out why I couldn't see this cursor. Okay. All right, I will come back to the Excel sheet, but part of the discussion for today is going to talk about athletic budget, our school safety grant, the busing options for us to look at. I'll also be looking at some of the other, as soon as I have the stuff put out, we have more of the final documents regarding band equipment and some of the other costs that have come up in previous conversations I'll share. I'd like to start with Mr. Trent. In your packet, you're going to see several documents for athletics. One is the cost of athletic sports programs, and we looked at uniforms, equipment, etc. You also see some sample uniform rotations if the board wanted to allocate dollars for uniforms, as well as total cost of Excel sheet by sport that talked about total cost. It had on that Excel sheet multiple items that were discussed in terms of annual cost, but it also had stuff that would be one-time purchase or may not be purchased yearly, because like a wrestling match, you don't purchase it every year. So we backed out those costs. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Trent, and if you can start talking about this document.
Yep.
I don't think so.
I think it's a little now. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So, when Mr. Walmsley and I met, I remember filling out the needs of sports assessment document for track and for wrestling. And when we wanted to look at it again, we wanted to look at, like, what would our coverage be for the school? And I know a big part of that first would be uniforms. So we looked at what is the definition of a uniform? What constitutes a uniform? So we said it's worn by the athlete during competition. And my big thing with this was it's distributed at the beginning of the year and collected at the end. Now, if it's something that the student buys that they're keeping, then we wouldn't constitute that as their uniform. Or if they lose their uniform or wish to purchase their own, they're charged that unit price, and then we put that money back in to purchase the replacement. Bags, if it's necessary for the athlete to transport their supplies. Golf bags, bowling bag, baseball, softball bags. Necessary to get your stuff there. And then helmets if it's required for the sport. So this breakdown was generated by the estimates the coaches gave us, numbers of uniforms, and the average cost of those uniforms, and what the expected lifespan of those uniforms are. You see, most sports, the expected lifespan is about 5 years. As a coach in a couple of these sports, I know that certain uniforms last a lot longer than 5 years, or we've made them last longer than 5 years. But for what we looked at, I thought that 5 years was a good lifespan for a uniform. Some of these sports, when the varsity gets a new one, it gets passed down to the JV and then to the freshmen, to the middle school and whatnot. So that total cost would be what the cost for uniforms, varsity down to middle school would cost.
Can we ask questions as we go?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Which way? Can I go back up there?
So the jerseys wouldn't have their names on the back? I mean, that would, or are we talking under their jerseys all?
No, we're talking their jersey, not what they wear. I think I'm like, there we go. No, we're talking that jersey. I know with football, the plate that they put on the back can be replaced year after. It's an actual plate that they put on it, and they stitch it on there. So those get replaced year to year.
But they would have an option then to purchase it?
Yeah, yep.
Instead
And
of
then if they
seniors
want,
stealing them?
okay.
So Preston, that plate, so they would return their jersey back in, the plate would get removed,
Yep,
and then we would use it again next year.
that's what we do. That's what we do right now. Yep.
Is that an option for other uniforms besides football, or are they not?
It can be. It really depends on the uniform. Like the football jersey is big enough and it kind of goes. But it's an option.
They swapped.
Very fun.
Okay, do we have any other questions on that slide?
Yep. So the cheer cost of $26,370. So it's that much for uniforms because they don't do helmets. Do they have bags?
No, that's uniform.
It must be.
I don't know.
Are you doing something to it? I didn't
You're not even touching it.
I didn't make that.
Check the record. I didn't touch it. Run it back. That would be their uniform, their round uniforms. And I believe with cheer, and I would have to check the individual one, but I believe with cheer we went with 2 rounds. I gotta check if it was 2 rounds or 3 rounds, because the other part of the uniform was the home and away.
Okay,
Yep, so like if baseball wanted a third uniform, that would come from the program, where the kids would be able to purchase that. But looking at that definition of a uniform, it's a home jersey and it's an away jersey.
so that's cheer, home and away, but you're calling rounds, meaning first
Yeah.
round they put this
Second round.
uniform on, second
Yep.
uniform.
And I would have to double check with the other spreadsheet where that 26, if that was 2 or 3 uniforms.
Okay, and then
And I can pull it up.
up there, okay, and then my question had been before when I first started talking about this a couple years ago. So take, I don't need that. So take the boys basketball, $14,265. Now, if that's what would go into for boys basketball. So if boys basketball wanted to get the Taj Mahal,
Yep.
other stuff, that becomes what's the parent's responsibility.
Correct.
So this, I love this, but this has to be something that we convey to parents, because, you know, parents are always putting this extra money. Well, we are providing $14,265 for that sport.
Correct.
What you're putting extra, that's extra that the team wants. Because I know baseball, there's, you know, extra things in that. So that's the thing that we have to convey.
Correct.
That we're actually spending that amount of money for uniforms. Because I don't think people understand that. I don't know that it's ever really been put out there.
But that's not yearly, is it?
No, that is a
That's
total.
That's if we had to replace everything.
This is, if I was gonna go order a new uniform for every kid, for every
Okay,
program, that's how
what
much
we're
it
talking
costs.
about, right.
But
Yeah, the life expectancy is listed
Yeah.
there.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
every third year, we'd be
But then she was
replacing.
saying we spent $14,000, but that's not a yearly $14,000,
Right.
is what I was just
No, yeah, I
clarifying.
just meant for the whole
Yeah.
program so that you understand this is what we're providing.
But this isn't currently what we're providing? You're
No.
saying this is
No.
what?
No.
Yes.
We
What-
provide nothing.
Right, okay.
We do not provide any uniforms.
So we don't provide any of this cost at all?
Well, I think there's some sports that do have uniforms that
Fun
parents don't
raise.
have to pay for, and they've been around for a few years.
Correct.
But
Yeah.
we still have to fundraise, I guess, for some other, like, for extras for the other sports.
So,
for other-
for example, the track uniforms that we got last year, those all came from our fundraise dollars. And the kids turn those in at the end of the year.
This doesn't include shoes either,
So-
right?
No, not shoes, because we can't collect those.
Yeah.
So I have a question about the bags though. So you're talking about, I'm going to use baseball as an example,
Yeah.
like are you providing baseball bags? Because that's something
Correct.
that kids usually have and want their name on and keep
So-
through them.
so
So that's,
right
I'm
now-
just curious.
So right now, the kids buy their own bag. Like Coach Evans gives out here's our jackets, here's our bag, here's our undershirts, here's this, and the kids will buy that. So that's where we can look at things, and if this wants to be the kid buys their bag, personalizes it, and then after they graduate, they use it for softball, then that would be where that money would come back into the program.
Or if we did provide bags, we could just put like Richmond and a number on it, don't necessarily have to put a name on it.
Which is
And then
what-
we would be able to collect them.
These
Soccer
are all the logistics that if the board is going to go down this,
Yeah.
that we would have to work out.
Right.
But
From
there
there.
would not be a customized, these are all the logistics.
Correct. And another part of this is creating an athletic department standard uniform check-in, check-out sheet that coaches will provide to me before or during their end of the season meeting. Before their check gets cut, they gotta send me that and show me we collected all these, or I've collected these kids are missing them, now we're gonna chase this down. So that's always it.
And chase the students down and make sure they're properly stored.
Yes. Yes.
So this is bare necessities.
This is the baseline uniform. Baseline, nothing super fancy, but what the kids need to wear to play the game. Participate, yep,
Minus the shoes.
minus the shoes. And the other things were like baseball gloves.
Yeah,
Because that's again, we looked at things that get collected year over year. And we'll talk more about that when we get to equipment, supplies. Yep. So, I talked with a bunch of other athletic directors in the conference about how they typically do uniforms. Most of them are on a 4 or 5 year rotation. So this is an example of a rotation. This is not who gets uniforms next based on how nice they are to trend. This is an example. So what I tried to do when I did this was keep boys and girls sports on the same year. I didn't want to do boys basketball 1 year and girls 2 years later. Keep the gender sports together. I also looked at how much does each cost and take that total, which was the 165,116, divided that by 5 to get that number of 33,023. So I tried to get as close to that number as I could for years 1, 2, and 3. Then the big one is football, because football has a lot of uniforms, and they're typically the most expensive uniforms. Talking to other athletic directors in the conference, football, when they do their rotation, typically goes on its own year, because it's a bear of a bill. So that's why the way these years are set up is they're actually, the first year we've got a net of 1,300, and then we were pretty close to spot on year 2. Year 3 we bring in another, or we're under 5,600, but then that helps cover the year 4 costs of the football uniforms, and then year 5 we finish out that money there with some sports that are pretty close to it.
So in this example, again, it's an example. If the board wishes to, they buy uniforms now, get in the business of that, because we haven't been able to. You would allocate roughly $33,000, $34,000 a year, and then a schedule like this would then be communicated to the teams. And so and I'll just use this example, and I don't have to pick on Mr. President now, but if he wants the Taj Mahal basketball uniform, he knows he's got roughly $14,000 from the district, and if it costs $20,000, he's got to pay the difference for those uniforms, but that's basically what we would pay. This then would create, when we're over and under, if we're under, the money just gets rolled up to the fund balance at the end of the year. The year that we're over, we may have to take money out or find money in the budget somewhere else to cover them, but that just gives you a general 5-year. It's spreading out over 5 years.
It also gives you a goalpost for fundraising.
Correct. Yep. Yeah, because if MISCO knows, and it's the same thing, if MISCO knows he's getting $39,000 for football uniforms in 2026, 27, it's okay, we need to fundraise. Our uniforms that get ripped or are no longer used, we have to cover those until that year. And then, same thing, fundraising to go above what that base unit for a uniform.
So when we implement this, we're going to be, the first couple of years, there are going to be some teams that are still going to have to fundraise for their uniforms and some that we're covering.
Correct, yep.
Would there be a guideline then, if you went over on your fundraising, what that overage would then have to replenish back into?
You mean if they didn't have enough to cover it?
Right, like if and they're so used to fundraising all this on their own, if it's, I imagine they
This will be a culture shock.
Yes.
Yeah.
This will be, because in my 9 years, and I can't tell you the number before, we've never done this. And it's been a conversation every year trying to get to this point. So it would be a lot of education with coaches. Again, this is an example. I can guarantee you, someone's going to take a picture of this on Richmond TV, post it on social media, and say, cheers, get the next year or 2 years. This is just an example. If soccer and boys and girls soccer had just gotten a uniform, it would make sense that they would be the 5th year out.
Yep.
But if they are on 10 years of uniform, it might make sense to put them sooner. So we'd have to look at that aspect.
And to be honest, I did take a little bit of that into account. I know girls soccer just got uniforms. So when I was making this, again, all tentative, but that did factor into that thinking with it. And that would be a conversation we would have. Okay, who needs what when? And how can we best do this?
So if we wanted to make everybody current right now, it would be a total of 165, and then we
you wanted to do all-out uniforms, 165, I would not recommend that, because whoever, if you're making everybody current now, some will have to wait 9 years to phase it in to get that.
So so if we did phase it in, how many years are we looking at before we're providing all of the basic uniforms?
In this
Is it 5
model,
years?
this model is
Okay.
5 years.
At the end of 5 years, I said that it would cover every sport.
Yep.
And then
Would the
everybody
parents
should
have
be relatively new and on a good
The
cycle,
ability
right?
to order on their own, though? I mean, I imagine if my son was in wrestling, I would want him to have his own stuff.
We can make that option. We could look at that when we go to order them. I know that like bowling, I know the kids keep their shirt.
Golf
So,
does too.
I think golf
I
does
think they
as
keep-
well.
Don't you keep your shirt?
So we could have that option for those parents that want, hey, I want my kid to have their golf polo. Okay, here's the cost of the golf polo. That's their obligation to us, and then we roll that money back.
And that sounds great. I guess the only concern I would have is some coaches, or I don't know, or even maybe parents, wanting the Taj Mahal of everything, and then that still leaves out a lot of the kids that maybe wanted to play but can't afford to keep up with the Joneses, I guess, for lack of better.
And that's where we get to what a uniform is. The uniform is it's exactly that, it's uniform, it's one across the whole team. So the coach would have to make the decision, okay, if we're going with the Nike uniform opposed to the, and I don't want to throw companies under the bus, but the BSN brand uniform, the coach would have to make that decision, okay, we're going to fundraise for this. And if we get to this point, all the kids are going to wear it. And if we don't, this is what we'll wear. So I'm not going to roll out a basketball team with 4 kids in Nike stuff and 3 kids in.
What is your quote now? Are you quoting us at Nike or in the lower levels?
Like, are we in the middle somewhere,
Yeah.
or are we at the low end?
This is what they've been spending.
This
When
is
it
what
was
the
put up to
coaches
coaches.
asked for,
Yeah.
what we originally did. So if they're
Okay, well, so
looking
this
at
is
what they're
requested.
currently doing,
Okay.
this is.
So they should be kind of in the realm of what they're already accustomed to, correct?
Okay.
Yep.
Which is probably higher end.
Which is good.
Yeah.
Right, because it'll have longer years
And
last.
it'll, with us being up there, it'll also help us keep up with inflation for a little bit. Because as that high-end uniform goes up, then we get caught up to that other one, and then the fundraising dollars will kick in.
And as with anything that we put in our budget, what's $33,000 a day? It's not going to get $33,000 in 5 years. So we have to slowly keep chipping and increasing into pricing.
Right.
Do we have that line item in our budget for next year?
No, and I'm explaining when we go through the budget, these are the new expenses when we do the budget. I think the big picture.
Okay, so the next 3, and this is probably where some of that confusion with the first draft of that was, because when we put supplies and equipment, I feel like I gotta stand back here. I got my teacher voice, but when we talk supplies and equipment, that was everything the program has. So that was baseballs, but also 3 pitching machines. So what I did was I broke down in that spreadsheet all of that equipment into consumables and non-consumables. Consumables would be game balls, bats, catcher's gear, scorebooks, the software huddle that coaches use for film, to send game film to opponents, track wrestling for wrestling, supplies to maintain the practice and competition surfaces, cleaning supplies for the wrestling mats, field drive for the baseball fields. So things that get used year after year, as well as football helmet reconditioning. So these are things that get used within a year. The non-consumables, if I can skip down there, these are the items that, if taken care of, should not lose their functionality in the short term. The quote-unquote, that was here when I was in school items. Wrestling mats, pole vault pads, track hurdles, pitching machines, blocking sleds, things like that. Things that don't need a replacement year to year. And you'll see that that was a good chunk of that equipment number from the original spreadsheet was those things. Because there's some, like the blocking chute doesn't need to get replaced. It's been there since '08.
How, you know, like you have football helmets, they are only good for so long and then you have to
Correct.
replace that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So where does, you know, like a pole vault mat,
Yeah.
or even the blocking shed, the hurdles, what is the life expectancy? You know, I know you have those
Yeah.
forever, but is there any kind of?
There is. And to be completely honest, I don't know what the lifespan are on some of these things because,
Right.
Yes.
yeah.
The track mats and the pole vaults are going almost like 10 years because they were bought in 14 months.
Okay.
So I mean, they're things that if they're taken care of well, can last for a while. Now, should we have something in there to, you know, if we gotta order new track hurdles, or if we gotta get a new blocking sled or something, that could be another topic of conversation, because some of those things are significant bills, yeah.
And
So-
this is where having adequate fund balance for something that comes up to be replaced, it's a one-time expense that is not in the budget year after year.
And, right, and is it the idea, like we do for setting aside money for a bus, or how we're taking care of the football field, is it that kind of thought process? Or is
It could be.
is it
In tonight's
just?
conversation, I did not have that as a line item, but it could be. You could set aside $10,000, $5,000 a year so that it's over there. So when we're ready to purchase like computers or like the field turf, the money's sitting there if something were to come up.
Or is it, you have to replace something like you said, you find the money and you only spend it, once you spend it, it's done, it's not spent next year?
Correct. Those are, I would say, your two options as a board. You can put money away and set it aside. It becomes then a permanent expense in the budget, like you were talking about. Or if it's a one-time, you take fund balance or a piece of it.
So I had two questions then. Are any of, like, any of these in the budget? Like any of the equipment costs, anything like that? Are they, we have, so we have no,
$287,000 number?
well, any of them, just even, or the 23,000, do we have anything?
If you take supplies and equipment and medical, that totals about $30,000. There's a supply budget of $11,000.
Correct.
Okay, and then this does not include, my second question was, this doesn't include the upkeep of the turf or anything, because you did say upkeep of the plane, so that's separate, okay?
The turf, we are setting money
Yeah, I know,
aside for
right.
that. But
Yeah,
yes, that's-
That's
So-
not, that's not equipment is what you're asking, right? Like, that's not considered equipment.
Yeah.
Right, but the other playing surfaces are, is what you're saying, because you, like the ball fields, like the,
Yeah, talking the things that get used year to year to maintain the fields.
okay.
So like
So like
field grading,
grading, yeah,
Yep.
okay, got it, okay.
Paint
What
or
about-
striking the baseball fouling, that's all in the budget
Chalk.
in our.
Yeah.
What about the basketball court, the floor, where does that come in? Because we do that however.
That is a
every
line
year.
item under maintenance.
That's a maintenance line item?
We sand it down. At some point in the near future, you've now gone as low as you can, and you're gonna have to start looking at replacing that basketball, which is strategically,
Right,
if this board chooses to go for a non-renewal, that is one of the items that's scheduled.
But those two things are not included in this, because this is everything else.
because they're taken care of on a different general fund line
The
item.
maintenance of
Maintenance,
the basketball, so when December, whenever, November, whenever we do
Yeah.
it, the resealing, that's done in our maintenance, that is in the budget.
Okay.
The striping of the baseball field, the grass cutting of those, that's already in our budget.
Then just a little bit of maintenance with the turf field, typically, I take care of that, just the raking and throwing some more weeds back in. But, so yeah, breaking it down into consumables versus non-consumables. And like Mr. Walmsley said, right now, that budget is about 10 or 11,000. And that covered new basketballs for basketball, bats for softball because they have to buy new bats every year because of the liability with it, and game balls for football, baseball, softball, and some other miscellaneous things that popped up. So, and then medical supplies, that was the, what the coaches needed for medical supplies. Typically that was pretty standard: tape, pre-wrap, ice packs, Band-Aids. Some sports had a little more detail in their med kits, wrestling. But the goal would be to get each team, and this is where my wrestling background comes in, is we've got really nice backpacks we use for med kits. And it's got a thing in it, and we could set one of those up for each team. And then when they need that restocked, we know that they've got a med kit that's big enough for tape and pre-wrap, things they need.
Can we, does Lennox help us as far as?
They do, yeah. If coaches have a med kit that they use, they take it up there, and then we get a bill. I also, in that supply budget, I bought a couple cases of athletic tape, and when coaches need tape, they just come ask, and I give them whatever they need, so.
So we do
I squirrel it away in the
get a
office.
bill from Lennox.
Yeah, we get, it's whatever it costs for the material, they don't charge us for labor.
Yep.
Like that, it's the material.
Now, the non-consumable equipment, that's a rolling 5-year scenario
No,
as well? Or
that is
this
just the
one time to
total-
get us caught up current?
No, that's, yeah, if we were gonna replace everything we use for every sport.
Okay, so that's what.
Yeah, if we were gonna buy
We did it all. Okay, do
new
you have a
mats,
number
new
of what
pitching machines.
is crucial in the district now that we need?
I don't have that number, because I don't know, again, I don't know the lifespan on some of these things. And what condition we're really in. If we wanted to do a really deep dive into it, I guess we could, but,
Most of these items would be bondable items.
Okay, good to know.
When you look at this as large ticket, this is what districts would put in a bond with their community. The stuff at the top, you probably do uniforms because you do band uniforms in a bond, but the consumable stuff, medical supply would not be bondable.
So what other districts provide all of the uniforms? Are there a lot? I mean, that,
I know, and I don't know exactly, speaking from the conference, because I meet with those guys quite a bit, I know there's a handful of schools in the conference that are on that rotation. I know Croslex is the one I've talked to the most about it. Jeff up there was the one that also told me keep football in the year by itself, which is what he does up there. So,
In the map, there are your larger districts, there's an allocation for uniforms.
all?
I don't know, we did not do that. You'd like us to go through each school?
No,
so we
I'm
did, but
just-
we don't have a sense.
yeah.
Do they pick and choose which sports, maybe?
No, it seemed like they had the ADs I talked to had these teams this year, these teams this year, these teams this year, so. And that's how I would want to do it, because I want to make sure everybody gets their chance. I don't want it to be, we need it versus, this sport is really good at fundraising, so yeah, they don't need them. No, they deserve it just as much as this team does.
Right, because the reality is it doesn't really matter what other school districts do. We've got to figure out what we can do financially, what our money can do, and how we can provide for our own stuff. You know what I mean? What other districts do really doesn't matter to me in this sense. We got to figure out what we can do within our money.
Right, I mean, I understand that, but I mean, we have a thought of other things we could be doing with that kind of cash too. So, other schools that aren't, there's so many other schools that aren't doing it. I mean, there's a reason for it. They're probably allocating their finances in different areas that maybe are more.
But again, that's whatever they do in their district. So whatever they do with their money, they do.
As far as the athletic rate, this was a conversation we started last year. We did not, when we went through, did all the budget adding. There just wasn't the dollars there to add, and it kind of went on the back burner. show you the spreadsheet in just a few minutes of where these numbers start falling in. Again, it's just, I'm going to say it's a recommendation, just kind of a placeholder to see what we can't afford if we wanted to do this.
Anyone have any other questions for Preston?
Actually, I just want to clarify. Any new uniforms right now are all being done by the individual teams doing.
Correct. Yep.
And they all have their own booster club?
No, some of them, there's a few programs that have a nonprofit or a booster club that they'll purchase their uniforms for. Other ones will run it through their internal account.
If this is the direction the board wants to go for uniforms, my recommendation would be all fundraising for uniforms is through the district's internal account for that sport. Because if it's in the nonprofit 501c, the district has no say over the dollar. And if this is what we're telling parents, okay, the district's going to give you $10,000, it costs us $15,000, we need to raise $5,000, then we can account for those dollars in their internal account. That would be my recommendation. If this is the avenue we're going to have to go.
Thank you.
Yes.
This is way better.
Yeah, yep. And if there's, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I just would like to do something.
Yep.
And I think this is a good breakdown to figure out, to me, what that something can be.
Well, I think the uniforms, the medical supplies, and the, what was it up there, the cleaning equipment?
Yeah,
the yearly supply, like that, we should cover.
I agree.
I just, thank you, Preston. I know that this board's been asking for this kind of information since before I was even on here, because I was a watcher before, but, so thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Thanks, Preston.
Yep, thank you.
Okay. The next I want to, in the list, is talk about the school safety grant. In the, let me start this out. What I was trying to pull up sooner. So I just want to kind of recap to start. This budget is based on, nothing's changed since the last 3 meetings. 28 FTEs down, $458 per pupil increase, which nets us $450,000 of revenue over expenses. When we started this process, we took all of our current expenses and moved them forward, so we didn't cut anything. That's what now shrink this down, so you can see that's what. We took all of our revenue that we had, moved it forward, and adjusted for enrollment. That's the 450. That's this number. We talked about the savings with Minster, which would be increased revenue for us. The special ed foundation increasing. All this is based on the governor's budget, $61,000. The MISD enhancement, they're telling us it's about a 5% increase, which is about $40,000. Expiring a voluntary severance that we have out there, that's going away. We then put through, at one of our previous board meetings, all the current contract agreements and moving them forward from secretarial to paraprofessionals, an estimated projected contract, what our proposal is for the early learning childhood center, we're in negotiation. Lunch aides, there's adding positions that we took out in the budget in the year to get us fully staffed for lunch aides. That's 5, 5, and 2. 5 at the elementary, 5 at the middle school, and 2 at the high school. We've never been successful, but we do have 1 now at the high school. Bus drivers, adjustments there. You'll see a non-union central office technology increases for all non-union. You'll see on here the settlement of the administrator's contract. You'll see on here the projected current REA. You'll see on here the custodian. Now the custodian, we had some vacant positions that we didn't fill. We put them back in the budget to make sure we're fully staffed. These are the stuff in the gray is what I'm going to talk about tonight. One of the things is in the scheduling that we have, there is not a need for an online alternative education coordinator position. There is significantly a reduced number of students that are going to be assigned to virtual instruction, and more of them will be in-person teachers. There is less than a dozen going into next year. So we would exercise the contract language, which allows teachers to pick up a stipend for virtual students. We've done that in the past. This past year at the high school, we weren't really able to do that because not many high school teachers had a prep. They were teaching on their prep this year. Next year, we have one singleton out there, actually two singletons, excuse me. Every teacher is scheduled to have their own prep hour next year.
What does that do, Brian? Isn't that our room that we suspend students and they go back into that room? So what happens to that thought in that room?
Well, for that time period, it could be for next year, it could be our buildings office that we have part of our code. We could assign them to be
okay.
In future years, we could look at bringing in a sub for a period of time. We'd have to be creative, but that is one thing that we'd have to take into consideration. This was not in your packet. I want to make sure you have it. This is a copy of the breakdown of the alternative education coordinator costs.
So in the gray, these are not in the budget yet?
None of this is in the budget until but what in the gray is the stuff that we're talking about tonight.
Okay.
And I'm going to go through and hopefully answer your questions. You'll see under the alternative is central office custodial stipends. For 2 years, there were several individuals in the organization that received a stipend because we didn't have enough custodial coverage to clean areas. So they cleaned their own offices, they vacuumed their own offices, they emptied their own garbage. It was offered to all administrators and secretaries when we were really short during COVID and last year. It was not agreed upon by those bargaining units. So these are non-union individuals. That goes away this year. So in the budget, there's about $10,000 when you add in the FICA and retirement, and all the costs that are associated, that goes away. We had a purchase of flagpoles this year. That's going away out of the budget. We had a purchase of football helmets that got charged to this year. We had a significant purchase last year. That's going away out of the budget. You will see in here, if you take the athletic supplies that Mr. Trent presented, the 30,000, roughly 6,000 in medical and 24 in supplies, and you back out about 10,000 that we currently have in the budget for supply, we could increase that supply budget 20,000 and it would cover those supply costs. If you wanted to put in a athletic uniform budget, there's a line item for 33,000 there. Again, that was using a 5-year cycle.
Can I interrupt you
Yep,
for one second? Being that we are talking about athletic uniform budget, do we have a line item on possibly, because I know the band and the choir are in here. Thank you, sorry.
So because we're talking about athletics and stuff.
Oh, I see it, I'm sorry.
So basically, we already have $20,000 for supplies set aside, is that what you're saying?
We have 10,000, I think it's actually 11,000 in the budget for the athletics and products.
Okay, you're saying if we added
20,000 more, we would get up to that 30,000 number, which would cover the medical and the athletic supply, the consumables.
Yes, okay, got
And
it.
you'll see if you wanted to add 33,000 to start a 5-year rotation.
So essentially, we would be adding 53,000
Correct.
towards
Correct.
athletics
Correct.
every year.
Correct. I'm going to come back to this one because I'm going to stay on with what you talked about it as choir and band. So, Ms. Staples and I, more Ms. Staples and I appreciate her for doing that. We did talk to Mrs. Shack last week. She stopped in the board office and we had a conversation about supplies. You'll see on that sheet there, there is a line item on their uniforms that they estimate and how long those uniforms are there. So you can see concert band, new uniforms are about $10,000. Concert band, sorry. Marching band is the most expensive and it costs about $20,000 for marching band. But you can see those typically last 20 years. Concert band uniforms are 10 to 15 years. Choir is about $15,000. They last usually 4 to 5 years. And when they do, what Mrs. Shack shared with us is when they do an order for uniform, they build into that order extra sizes and uniforms as you have these students. And you might get an anomaly, a very small child, a larger child that you have to accommodate for. Every once in a while, or they freshmen, every once in a while you get an anomaly, and we have had to purchase unique uniforms. But if you wanted to set aside uniform budgets, and that's where that 15 on this list comes, then we would work with Molly and Stacy and say, okay, this is what we have to work with. There could be years that 15,000 is not used because of the life expectancy of those uniforms, and that would either go, my recommendation is you keep it as a lineup and it goes to your roll-up, or the years you don't use that might be the years you have some outstanding equipment or some equipment broke that you got to replace, and you have it as a placeholder in the budget.
So
Or you could take the position, all right, we're not going to use it, we're going to take it out of the budget, but you got to remember to put it back the year that it's when it's needed.
So where are they at? Are they in need of uniforms?
Well, I can
now?
tell you that I was on the choir boosters when they purchased the last uniforms for the choir.
Choir is
And
what
that
they're-
was in 2018.
Choir is what they're looking at?
2018, so they're on year 6.
Choir is what they're looking at
That's what I said.
purchasing.
For next year.
That's what the conversation.
Oh, yeah, okay,
that Molly
yeah.
shared was
They're-
choir
oh, yeah.
was their use. So
Because I know they're on year 6.
if you're just looking at choir, you don't need the full 15, but at least it's a placeholder.
And the tuxedos are more expensive than the dresses, and they run typically like 175 range, so
Yeah.
there's more men one year than another,
Right,
then
right,
those,
right.
that number will fluctuate. But
And honestly, I don't think the tuxedos were replaced even 6 years ago when we did it, we just did the dresses.
That's the focus then.
Okay. That's good.
I think we should do that.
Then you have, I'm sorry, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. So there is no current line item
There is no current line item for
for
any
anything.
choir or band uniform. They have
They fundraise.
fundraise and
I
pay
thought
for
so.
themselves.
Okay.
So again, though, they have their own booster, they do a lot of fundraising.
Yes, they do.
But the other side of the argument though, Candace, is where I come from on it. Choir and band are classes, they're curriculum things. To me, it's different from a sport, and we need to get a line item that puts money in there for that.
To me, it's like science and buying all the
And the
science
band
stuff.
booster money
This is a
pays for the
class.
cleaning of the uniforms,
Right.
all those have to be
Yes.
cleaned and stored.
There is
The choir is the
there
same
a-
thing, they have to be hung and cleaned and all of that, like, and there's not, I don't know, I can't really speak for the band, and I don't even know, I can't even speak currently for the choir boosters, but I know when I was in there, in a choir booster, it was not, I even did it the year after my daughter graduated, and there's not a ton of participation in that for fundraising, to be honest with you. We just worked insanely crazy because it was a need back then.
Well, I know that they do a lot of fundraising down at the elementary level, and the elementary level don't see anything. They don't get shirts, they don't get band or
Are you
choir.
talking the music program?
Yeah, band or.
Correct, there's no uniform for the
But they do a
elementary.
lot of fundraising down there. So
The
we're
PTO?
no, the band and choir.
At the elementary level?
Well, the
Middle-
fundraiser
middle-
ran by the booster is open district-wide for everyone. So yes, there is
So
fundraising going on,
All
but that
those grades are
fundraising is,
fundraising for basically the high school.
Well,
kids
technically,
that
the
are getting.
instruments and many of the equipment and the stuff that Ms. Shack has to buy for, that is being paid for through the district or boosters.
My hope, if the board's going to consider this, is the amount of fundraising decreases.
Correct.
Yes, and that's what we,
That's kind of where I'm
plan,
going
right?
to.
Yes,
That's the whole
Yes.
idea.
Yes, because then I feel like through the fundraising program, like we, Coach Trenner, Mr. Trent was pointing out that some get great fundraising parents, and some programs don't. That's not fair to the student, right? The student should be, each sport should be treated equally and funded equally. And if we as a district can afford it, I would love to put it back into our students if possible. And we could use sports. I think sometimes sports also could be used more as a curriculum and social emotional learning. And if we start funding more of that, I think that would really help us in the long run. Thinking of athletics and the arts, more of a curriculum and not just an extracurricular.
There is a lot of fundraising that goes on in that middle school, and everybody's kind of fighting for,
Their little pot of money.
and they don't want to step on each other's toes, and, you know, doing the same candy bars or, you know, at the same time, the same fundraiser. So if there could be some sort of a, yeah, we'll provide this if you fundraise less, I mean, if that's, or is it going to continue the way that it has been?
I think the goal is to.
Fundraise less.
Yeah, to fundraise less,
Cut fundraising.
but that's just, I guess, my interpretation of that goal.
I would look at it as if your sports teams know, this year I've got X dollars for supplies, medical, uniforms. And my band and choir programs know if there's an allocation for uniforms, performance outfits. And you'll see in the next one, if we don't have a line item to purchase new instruments. The last instruments we purchased were the 14 bond. There are instruments that are starting. My recommendation is you put in a line item. 7,500 is kind of a conversation I had with Molly. It might be some years we might need a little more, and some years it might be less, but there's some that are starting to go that we need to start replacing.
And again, those are academic things to me, that you are participating in the class. You have to have your uniform to do the marching band. You have to have your instrument to play in the marching band and that. And we should formulate these line items because
And they're marketing for our school. They're at every Memorial Day parade, their Good Old Days parade, they're marketing the goodness of our district as they're going out there. Same with our athletics.
Even at
So it's
every
important
competition.
That they have what they need. At our competition, yes.
It showcases our schools.
Even starting the band in the middle school, the 4th and 5th, 6th grade band, I mean, it's not known that there's instruments that can be borrowed. I mean, you have to get your own instrument.
You do. There's not,
Yeah.
what happens is in the high school, there are instruments that there's no way you need for an orchestra band, you need for a marching band, but a parent could not afford. So there are those few, that's why that's the higher items, like the French horns and some of the really expensive, the baritone sax, those are the price of a car.
So I'm
as
just
a parent,
trying
you could.
to show that there's this high school level of stuff going on, and then you've got your middle school too. So it's different. They use different instruments.
But as a band director, Mrs. Shack looks at all the instruments she has.
does, right.
She moves things from the high school.
Yes, she does.
There are instruments at the middle school, but if there's an instrument that doesn't work at the middle school and she's got one at the high school, she will bring it to the high school or the middle school. But the challenge we're facing is there are some instruments that it's beyond repair. It's costing us. We have an instrument in your budget, is an instrument repair budget every year. We send out instruments for repair. That's already budgeted. These are, we need to buy a new instrument. Because the last purchase we did was in the 14 bond, the 13 bond, which is probably done in 14 or 15.
And now is the time to do it because we have the ability to do it.
So you see on there is the yearly instrument. So the other item that I passed out, and I said to the board that I would ask the board consider, is a confidential secretary. I do not have a secretary. Now, I will be open and honest. When we brought the HR director, I gave up my administrative assistant. But this person or this individual will be with us.
I'm sorry, we got, it was going over, okay.
So that cost is an average of two costs, a high and a low end. You see on that chart that I gave you, the benefits are a high end. If someone's new to the organization or new to the Michigan retirement system for public schools, they're at a very high rate of retirement. If you look at that percentage. It's assuming a full family. I don't know if the person would be full. But not only would this person be my direct secretary, but it also do the PR, the newsletters for the district, coordinate getting that all in there. Communication. We really need to be more proactive on getting things out to the community than we have been. We have great people in the building who are doing a lot of PR on social media, and they're doing a phenomenal job. This would be our elections coordinator right now. That is my job. I am the election coordinator for the district. We do school board elections in a year from now, 24. We'll get the language that was part of their job. So, in
there's board responsibility.
There's board. This would be the minutes. This would be the board packet. I'll just give you for instance. This is all I did today was the board packet, printing it, running it, costing out, getting ready for any closed session stuff. That's all I did today.
So basically your whole day.
And again, a lot of this I have to review or write, and I will be the first. I make mistakes, and things get. This would be this person's job. In my query of all the superintendents, every superintendent has a secretary. I know one that doesn't have a secretary. But again, I gave that up 2 years ago because I felt the need to have an HR director was more important at the time. And thank gosh, I just did that because after the year we went through, with the amount of hires, rehires, resignations, and so forth, I would have been doing that job, and there would have been no way I could have done it.
And done everything else.
Right. I mean, Mr. Field takes care of all the fingerprinting, the background checks, the processing. I mean, that is an HR function. I think we've got to a point as an organization that those critical are having a curriculum director, having a business manager, and HR are critical components. Again, I'm asking the board to consider it. When you look at the net at this point, with all the pluses and minuses, you still have about $17,000 in revenue that's not allocated.
So this would be a full-time position now?
This would be a
Full-time, full all year.
It would be built as a 52-week, just like Mr. Theo and Ms. Chad and Ms. Staples. And everybody else. There'll be some movement of people. We'd have to adjust some offices and shift some people to other areas of the district.
What
So
would
with
the credentials for this position be for this person? At that work salary?
I want someone who can do things, this is your job on your own, so I'd have not a lot of direction other than inputting in how the board packet goes. I haven't sat down and done any type of job description yet, but the conception would be, it would be PR, or it would actually be the secretary to the board that would put all the minute notices out. Right now I do all those. I send them out to the building, they post them. But I have not done a job description.
They would have some sort of a degree.
I would want someone with some PR background. Yes, I would.
It's really, I thought the number seemed high, but when you bring it down, like you did on here, like, that's only a salary of $40,000.
$40,000 to $50,000.
I thought the same thing when I
I was
looked
like,
at it.
that's practically what our administrators are making that, but it's not, because shoot, retirement is 49%. That's outrageous.
And
So it's
that
really
may
just
come
no
down if
real
it's someone already in the retirement system to like 43. So that may come down significantly.
But you're only talking a person who's making a salary of 40 to 50,000, which is not unreasonable. But all those extras that go into
I know,
paying a
that's-
salary is nuts.
Reflected at the end.
Yeah, and it's that thing, it could not affect, it could be someone that doesn't need that, so there's all of that, it might not be that
Yeah, it
high.
might not be that high.
Now, I really like what you've come up with. I really do think this is ideal, but I did want to talk about maybe readjusting pay to participate and how much we were actually spending on that. And then also possibly, I don't know if this would be the time to talk about it, making the athletic director its own position and then the facilities.
Can I have one last item to finish?
Sure.
Before we get, is there anything else the board wants us to work back? One is transportation. So on the spreadsheet that you have there, this is not doing a two-tiered busing and trying to find someone to add the turtle run back. All right. So one of the things that in the conversation with the administrative team after our last board meeting, pull this up, you should have the transportation option. This sheet. Just adding the bus back is about $50,000. Again, it's trying to find a driver. That's our challenge. Two-tiered, if we're going to do this, some of those other items have to come off the table. And the only reason I brought the two-tiered for you was if we have less drivers, we could do a two-tiered and we can get rid of the wait list because we've got room on buses. I don't have exact numbers in terms of how many high school riders versus middle school versus elementary. But in talking with our directors, the middle school and high school have to be grouped together for the ridership to be at least somewhat balanced. The other option to attract people to the position of a bus driver is we create 6 bus driver / hall monitor positions. So they're still getting the basically 4 hours on the bus driver's side, but 3 hours in the day would be on the hall monitor in the building during this transition time, particularly in high school. This is more relevant, but at the middle school, kids in transition, it would be a hall monitor in there. During when kids are in class, it would be many districts have. I don't have a number. I can get that if you'd like. They check to make sure kids are where they need to be. If they're in the bathroom, gone and you've done your business, and you get out. You don't hang out there for a half hour. This would be a way that we could sell or track bus drivers, guaranteed basically 6-7 hours you would be guaranteed where you're a bus driver hall monitor. So what might that look like? Again, going by, here's just a calendar. Again, that's what this is showing. It's showing basically on full days, they would get 3 extra hours each day. So if I'm a bus driver that gets 4 hours, every day I'm getting 3 more hours. So now I got 7 hours of driving for paid time. On half days, it works out to be 2.5 hours. So if I'm done at 8, 7:50, by the time I get the bus back to the yard, it's about 8:15. I could do hall monitor from 8:30 to 11:30. Go have my lunch. I don't have to be back till 2:15. And I could have one hall monitor go from 11:15 to 2:15, leave the building, go get the bus, and do the afternoon run. So there is at least one body there all day long in the building. They're just two part-time bodies.
And you think that if we added hours to the schedules, that would be attractive for a bus driver / hall monitor to apply for that job?
Talking with Susie last week, absolutely.
Okay.
Because there are some districts, like our neighbor, one to the east, southeast, they have a guaranteed 6 hours.
Okay.
But they also have a 2-tiered bus system. So these positions would be bus driver / hall monitor.
What about our current bus driver? You said Susie's, our current bus drivers interested in something
In
like
the
that?
conversation last Thursday or last week? Yes.
Somewhat, yeah.
Yeah, it's not all. There are some that only want the AM and the PM. But if we can, the attraction is, my first thing is how am I going to attract people to want to be a bus driver? We have offered drivers in the past, custodial, we've offered other, but because those, or paras, when we've had openings in paras, but because some of those are under a contract, they have to go by that rate, so they would actually be taking a pay cut, and they're not interested. We have some drivers, I don't know for sure if this is real, but our former director works in New Haven. There's a guaranteed number of hours she gets in New Haven, which is more hours than we can offer her in Richmond.
So will these that do the combo of the hall monitor and busing, will they qualify for health insurance? Will they be full-time to the point that they?
That could be a decision that as a board, you could say, we want to start, they will in the measurement period. If you want to start insurance right off the bat, then we can start single subscriber like we offer.
That could be another attraction.
Right.
And benefits is something they're looking for.
Certainly.
They're not all of them need it, but there are some that do need it. Right now, they don't get it until they do the measurement period, which would be probably next school year.
Well, I think that these options would be more attractive to get a new bus driver in. You know what I mean? Like to hire from outside, not even just who's already there.
Susie went Friday with the Tammy, she went to the Thursday, she went to the job fair to try to attract to bus drivers and
So she brought them something like, she could bring what we're doing, something like this, the next job fair type scenario, it might be something that would be different, more than likely. Are other districts splitting this like this?
other districts either have a two-tiered system, which allows them to get the hours and stay just as a transportation driver. I'm not saying a two-tier is the way to go. It's just an option that we look at, but it's a very expensive option. At some point, as enrollment continues, if we're either going to have to add more drivers and buses or seriously look at a two-tier.
So what currently is budgeted for our one-tier system a year? Like, what's our current budget?
Current budget right now is it's in the budget going in, we put in $45,000 increase. That's putting the Turtle Run back for the transportation costs with their increase, projected increase in rates of pay. This option allows you to look at using basically 117,000 of this 97 grant. It comes out of the grant rather than the general fund. The one thing I would ask the board to consider is you have a couple options. I have approached the Richmond Police to see could they expand our liaison officer. We use her quite a bit in proactive as well as reactive measures. They do not have the capacity to expand officers. If you wanted to hire officers, retired police officers, which is what Armada did, Anchor Bay went, just to give you a context, they went with a third-party company, which is about the same cost. If you wanted 3 people, it works out to be about $188,000, which is your whole grant.
We currently pay for our liaison officer.
We currently pay, it's about $20,000 a year out of 31A.
Okay, so that's, okay.
But it's 2 days a week.
But how much are we actually paying for our tier 1 system right now for the busing?
Just
I don't
under
know
$1
that I
million.
heard that answer.
The total cost?
Yes.
Just under $1 million.
Pardon?
Just under $1 million for the total cost of transportation.
Total cost of transportation, drivers, maintenance, gas, everything, just under $1 million.
That's every year? Even the off years that we buy, every 2 years we buy the bus?
Doesn't include the bus.
Every year we buy a bus.
We buy buses
Oh,
every
it's
year. That's
Every year
another.
we buy a bus.
Because we set it up to rotate them out.
Because in the last budget, was it last one or the one before, we allocated money for transportation. Prior to that, we did not. We relied on the bond to buy buses.
So this 300,000 would add to that 1 million per year.
Correct. If you went with the two-tiered system, yes.
Correct, okay, I just want to make sure we're not wrong.
So we have our dispatcher driving right now.
Correct.
So we technically need 2 drivers. We
Correct.
need somebody to bring the turtle bus back, and then we need
And that's what that 45,000 is.
our dispatcher back in the building and another driver for the current bus she's driving. Correct?
Correct. We have always planned on having all buses run with the dispatchers not on a run. But that budget, it has that dispatcher back where they're supposed to be. Because remember, I don't know if you were on the board at that time. The purpose of the dispatcher was we split the transportation director with New Haven. So in New Haven, she's over in New Haven, we have someone in charge to, if there's a bus issue, to be able to address those issues.
So
But she's been driving because we've been short bus drivers.
what would be the tipping point that's just, we gotta do this two-tier in your,
You've exhausted every option to keep it 1 tier. This to me is an option to expand the hours. And if we expand and say, okay, you're gonna get a minimum of 7 hours, and we still aren't getting anybody, if we wanna maintain busing in our current parameter, we need to look at what's the next option.
and we feel that if we did do 2-tier, we wouldn't need 9 buses.
The 2-tiered, list up here. We currently have bear, cat, dog, horse, kangaroo, lion, moose, and lakeshore. So we have 8 buses that run. We have a waiting list because we should have the turtle bus. The ECSE, AIS, and the CT program are picked up by one of those other bus drivers. So to not have a 2-tier, or to have everybody not have a waiting list, we need 9 bus drivers. The budget, by adding the turtle bus back, that 45,000, as 9 buses drivers, plus a dispatch, plus halftime director.
That's the 2-tier budget.
No,
No,
that
current.
is the current
Current.
budget that on this
So we
spreadsheet,
would need 9 bus drivers if we did 2-tier.
we would only need 8. But some of the runs are going to be longer because we're running at 8 now. So in essence, the kids that are on those 8 buses right now, we're going to take a portion of them off, and they're going to get on the bus at a later time. The only benefit for the 2-tiers, now I'm telling those bus drivers, instead of a 3-hour run you get, you're going to get 6 hours a day, because you got to do 2 runs in the morning and 2 runs in the afternoon.
Double the gas, double the mileage, double the wear and tear. On bus.
Right. In the option of doing kind of a bus driver slash hall monitor, if you will, I don't know, if they're running a field trip, there's not a hall monitor in the building, but we have them already on site. And they're getting the hours, but not having to have a 2-tiered system. The downside on the 2-tier, and we talked about this last one, you're getting out at 3:30.
Yes.
And if you're looking at that being high school, middle school as a possibility, now you're dealing with athletics that kids are gonna have to leave early to get to, I mean, if they go to North Branch, what is that, an hour and 15-minute drive to North Branch?
Bus, yeah.
So they gotta leave earlier than what they're
They're going to
currently.
lose their whole last hour. The other thing you have too is your elementary, then you have the childcare.
In the
issue.
afternoon.
Yeah, instead of in the morning.
Or the morning, if you
Yeah.
did the elementary later and the high school earlier, you're gonna have the childcare. So there's a lot, I'm not saying it's a good move, I hope that nobody walked away that, I'm just looking at what are our options. If we wanna get drivers to come to Richmond, if I can choose New Haven for 6 hours and Richmond for 4 hours, and our pay, even though we're paid a little bit more, our pay pay isn't that much different, I would take the 6 out, and I'd probably get benefits. And so I'm losing a pool of candidates.
Well, and you're
for the
also
district.
looking at $300,000, and we don't even have a driver to do it, so you're putting that
It's a
into
gamble.
It's a gamble to completely uproot a system in the
Some of
hopes
our
that you get a driver.
drivers don't want to go full-time, correct?
I would say there are some drivers who just like the morning and the afternoon. 'Cause
Right.
In the past, we've had drivers who have a midday, they worked in a doctor's office or a dentist, and they're
And
happy.
so, no, just so I can finish. And so, then you're looking at the hall monitor / bus driver, you're able to take money out of grant dollars, you're not touching general fund. And I don't want to spend $300,000 on a crapshoot, it's just my opinion. And my other question would be, when we're looking at even thinking about doing the hall monitor / bus driver, and the pay was $21.03, I think is what I saw. What does it do if we want to do that and we increase it to $22.03? Does that sweeten the pot even more, where it's up $1, you know what I mean? I'm looking at that, what's that you pick? It's not $300,000.
Correct, it would not significantly increase, it would increase it. The other piece, why the hall monitor is, and again, it was discussed after the last board meeting, otherwise I already brought it to you, and it was one of our administrators, because the COVID aid positions aren't here next year.
Right.
So for 2 years, help me out, 2 years, this is the end of the second year, that the buildings have been used to an added person there. We're redefining what that role is now. It's no longer cleaning the COVID aid, we're going to be more on the security. It could be someone every hour when kids are in session, you're walking around and checking doors, make sure every door is locked.
They did a lot. COVID
Oh,
did.
I don't disagree with you.
I really like the idea of aides. So, for example, if we had a couple bus drivers that were just interested in the morning and the afternoon, they could stay just morning and afternoon, right? But those couples say that want to have those extra hours, they can come in and be the hall monitors, but remember they're bus drivers. So, if in the event, because I'm an emergency management mind, something were to happen and we needed to evacuate certain children in a hurry, we already have 2 bus drivers already here on site. 3.
If you did one in every building.
One in each
you did
building,
3
where
all
we could at
on
least
site.
start getting kids,
You're absolutely
whether it's shuffled from one building to another building or off-site, we've got them right here on site.
You're
That's an
absolutely right.
interesting point. I'm in favor of the out-of-the-box idea myself.
I am too, but I do think we should look into offering the ones that pick up both. Some kind of health insurance maybe, and that will help.
So is the direction,
Set up for new buyers maybe.
that's what I mean, is the direction is, we want to start the single subscriber like we do others now, then we build that into, we cost that out and build that in.
I could addition up.
Because your single subscriber is about $8,000 for a year benefit. I think it's actually on $8,200. So that's healthcare, it should be hard cap, not hard cap, dental and vision. It's basically $4,000 gets charged to the grant, $4,000 we get charged to transportation because they're split funding. But I could say you got 6 to 7 hours guaranteed, you got insurance, right off the bat, that will draw a group of people just for this position.
What does raising it up $1 do? And
Anytime you increase any rates is a plus.
Yes.
But we can cost that out.
No, I
because
mean, I don't know, I'm just throwing it
Well,
out, I don't know what anyone else thinks.
$35.
In the budget list item, or the items listed on here, that bus driver in this,
And this thing.
one of the line items is about a 3% increase. So if you're $21 times a 3% increase, that's what's already budgeted, some type of increase for next year.
Okay.
So then the other dollars that, in the sheet, you'll see a combination of hall managers, and I can call it retired police officer. If you want at least one person on site, more than our liaison officer, That's what this is, and this would be their.
So are we not,
What about a whole just campus security, like one for the whole
Well,
campus?
that's what this proposal, that combination, it's about 62,000 if you wanted to look like a retired police officer to be 5 days a week on campus. And they would work with the hall monitors to coordinate the security and logistics they need to go through. Right now, our liaison is about 20, 25,000 for 2 days a week.
We
so
can keep
to-
her too, though, right?
so to not have, well, but, okay, but then
Why do you need to just, right?
yeah, just clear, get me clear. If we have a liaison officer 2 days a week, why isn't that enough? Why doesn't that work for us? Why do we think we need to have some kind of security person 5 days a week other than that? That's my question.
If we have a hall monitor in each building, if we're approving that.
We have, okay, we have,
That's
we're
it.
gonna do the hall monitors in each building. We have the night locks that we're gonna have, right, we're
2 of the
working
3
on.
buildings are done, the
Okay.
3rd will get done in July.
We have the tags, the security tags. And we have to get buzzed into the building, because the problem, I mean, research shows that the problem is individuals coming from outside of the building, inside the building. So if we keep those individuals out of the building, do you know what I'm saying? Like, that should be our goal. I personally am not a fan of having anybody with a gun inside the building.
And we talked before the board meeting. If you want an arm, that's a different conversation, because you'd have to change policy on allowing weapons.
Does our current resource officer carry a gun?
She's a Richmond police
Because
officer.
She's a Richmond police through the city. It's
She has arrest power, she's an officer. She can, we've got students with drugs here, she can issue tickets, she can arrest them if we needed to.
I guess my question, again, with this is what makes us think we want to do that, whether that's the money to spend, whatever. Our liaison officer has worked for years.
I guess what I'm saying is I don't want to do that.
You don't want
To
the
answer your
liaison
question.
officer either?
No, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I don't want to add, I'm fine with the hall monitors, I'm fine with that, I think that's a great idea. But no, I don't want to add retired police or private security to our buildings. That's not anything I'm for.
I think
this
what
all,
we have works.
I think this all came out, if you remember back in the fall, we had parents really harping and coming into public comments about the safety of our buildings. And that discussion has really gotten big at every school, guys. I know that's why Armada has somebody in there, and I know Anchor Bay does the same thing. It's considering everything that's going on in our society and everything that's happening. There has been a push, and we have heard it from our parents. I think, Margaret, that answers your question, why we even thought about it.
Oh, no, I know why we thought about it. I'm not saying that. From my point of view, I believe that our police liaison officer does the job. So I don't think that we need to go extra. I know why we're talking about it, yes, because of people that I know what's happening in the world, all of that stuff. Please don't think that I don't respect any of that, because I do. I just believe what we have works.
Well, this past year, like you were saying, I mean, we've added a lot of things, a lot of measures.
I would say when we had the January, February period where we had one in every building, there was a lot of proactive stuff and building relationships to prevent things happening.
How much did that cost us? How much did we pay for the Richmond police to protect and serve the community?
Can you look that up, Kim?
Yeah, because it wasn't done free
No, it
by
wasn't.
the police.
We paid for it, and we use, I think,
clear.
security money to pay for it. But I guess the question is, there's days that we don't have a liaison officer that we probably could benefit from having someone here. And I'm just talking about a parking lot.
But can we call
At the
our
elementary
liaison
school.
officer, like on the day she's not?
Or
we can just
you
call
call the
our
Richmond
Call the
police.
Richmond
that are down
We
the
do,
road.
we do, and if they
I
have,
mean, it's not like they're far away.
if they have officers that will come
Are
over.
available.
Are available, they do. For non-emergency, I'm not talking about, we've got a kid with drugs in a locker that we got there. They've always come for those issues.
Sure.
Or our liaison officer on our days off is calling off, hey, go over to the high school, we need your help.
Have we had any officer that needed to be called to the buildings this year for a emergency situation? Like, I know I know that we've had some things this year, but they weren't like emergency response type situations. Am I correct?
They come on the medical ones.
Off the top of my head, the only would be
Needing a
medical.
police officer.
Okay.
Yeah,
It
that-
wasn't already here the day of the situation?
The
You
false
mean,
parking lot fight that was broken up, that's about the only.
Right, okay, so a false.
Fake up, right.
parking lot fight.
Well, I mean, I like the idea, I understand what you're saying about being secure, but to me, a security guard without having the backing of the law and being a police officer, that doesn't make sense to me. That's the only way I want to have that. Like, if they were like our current liaison, where they do have the power of the law behind them. You're saying they can't afford any more than what we're doing.
When I approached the chief about, do they have the capacity to increase or days, the answer was no. They do not have the capacity to, the other piece, again, you never build a position on a person. But we also are looking at potential retirements that are gonna happen, and who is that next liaison? There's a difference, if you got the right person in that position, it makes a difference on the relationship with kids and their willingness
That's
to.
anything on that.
But you're right, you're absolutely right.
So, I mean, there's other things too, though, I mean, especially with, like, security guards and not necessarily trained police officers, I mean, there's, I think there's a potential for more harm than good, I guess, in that particular situation. Like, there's studies that have been done, I can give you guys sources if you want, where, just between 2016 and 2018, over 30 kids were maced or, pepper sprayed, and over 15 of them were injured by these, individuals for not having any physical, not being a physical threat at all. Like, you know what I mean? They're falsely done, and I just think that is not anything we need here, but that's just
But I believe you
unnecessarily
can have,
escalated to,
correct.
I believe though you can have a positive piece. I mean, you're demonstrating negative, but I would agree as being a high school principal, having that person in the building is a positive in that they get to know the kids, the kids will talk, maybe they can prevent fights breaking out, or prevent, if a kid's talking drugs, or something, that they could have those conversations that I as a principal may not have or may not hear. You look at what did transpire when we had them in the building in January. The positive piece that it did for kids is just another person in the building who could create a relationship with our kids that could be positive.
And I think that you're right, Deb. I'm not saying that, I'm not trying to be, a hater about it. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm just like, the National Association of School Psychologists argue and do a study indicating that students are more afraid of individuals in the buildings with guns than feeling safe. So I don't know. I mean, I think for Richmond, maybe that was the case. I don't know. I wasn't here. I didn't see those interactions. I mean, I saw what was on Facebook and everything, and that's great, but I don't know what every single student felt in that room. You know what I'm saying? Like, for real, what they felt.
Okay, but you also, did we talk to our students about why we're doing this? It's like anything else that we offer new to our students. We need to model, we need to train them, we need to explain to them, and that's K to 12. So if that's done properly, I believe you don't have that piece.
Mr.
But I
Wilson,
could
we
be wrong.
also added more cameras in the school too, right, this past year?
Yes, we did add more cameras, and this summer we planned on adding cameras to the outside of the middle school, because that's one of the buildings that's lacking cameras on the outside.
And Deb, I guess with your argument of the creating the relationships and that, to me, that doesn't work for me in what my mind is thinking of the need for a security officer, that the building relationships and all that, our staff does that. Yes, they do.
They do.
But wait, just
Okay,
let me finish. So the argument of wanting to bring a security type person in to forge relationships with kids and that kind of stuff, that doesn't work for me. I'm just telling you, I don't agree with that point. I believe that that's what our staff already does. So in my mind, that's not what a security person does.
So what Deb is talking about, though, I do know what you're saying. I know my kids, I have high schoolers and elementary kids, and I even know students from middle school, when the police officers, the city of Richmond police officers, were in those buildings. I do agree that that was beneficial because it built a camaraderie amongst this city. To just get I don't know if we would contract a third party or even just hire a retiree, I don't feel that that's the same. To me, for a student to know that I know you in my school, and then now when I see you out patrolling my streets, that's where, I guess that's where I feel like I would prefer. If we could get a resource officer in each building, that would be ideal for me. But it would have to be a city of Richmond, and that's the reality, since that's not gonna happen. So in the meantime, I think we should still keep our current agreement with the city.
Yeah, no, I do too.
How does the staff feel though? I mean, how are the teachers? Do they feel safe? Do they, what is their, would they want
We have
this?
not surveyed the staff. If you ask me, if I asked if they felt safe, we have not surveyed the staff.
Because in the high
That
school,
could
you
be
are
a
dealing
tipping
with
point
older
right there.
students. Yes.
But I would mention, you need to expand it beyond just teachers. They're 85 are 220 staff.
Well, also, I mean, that is a present staff.
Again, that the situation that happened that warranted us to have the police in our building was the best move we could make at that time, in my opinion. I think
I agree.
I think it was the best move. Would have been nice if we hadn't had to pay for all of it, but that took care of that need at that time, that crisis, if you will. I don't believe that we are in that situation every single day. So we're not, again, that's where I'm coming from.
And again, I don't think that we should have to wait for something to happen to.
I agree.
I think we should be proactive, but I think we already are being proactive, I guess is my point. Like, when we are, we are doing the night locks, we are, you do have to make buzz in the building, like, we're already doing those things.
The only problem with those measures is they are passive measures. They are not, they are reactive measures. They're there when something happens. It's not there to help prevent something.
I disagree. I would have to disagree with you.
Well, even cameras, because if you have cameras there, it's great. You can see what's going on, but as it's happening, it's not actually having somebody here ready to respond, because now you still have to get your responders here.
Yeah,
So
the
they
camera-
are different.
Agree, the camera would be reactive, but keeping individuals that don't belong in the building out of the building is proactive. That's a proactive thing.
Not if you have a AK whatever, the last one that happened, they shot through the front door and that's how they got
Right,
in.
even if there is armed people there, they do.
Yeah, and the reality is, unfortunately, in this world that we live, you're as safe as you can be until you're not. And if someone is going to do something evil, they're probably going to be successful at it. So you have to do everything you can to keep people safe within your school community. And I think we do a good job of that, a really good job, I do. I think, and we've come up with different ideas for stuff. This is too much for me, that's all.
So is the direction of the board to maintain liaison officer as we have this year?
Yes.
So I can have the conversation with the city as we look at the budget?
That's definitely my support, yes.
I'm surprised to find out she's only here 2 days a week. I thought she was,
I feel like I see her
here more.
Well, I think sometimes you do see her more because even when she's working her regular shift, she might come in. I think that's where people
Or she gets called in when she's not on a regular shift.
Right, and I think people think she's here every single day,
She does routine, they do drive-throughs
The police?
throughout our campus.
Yeah, they do drive-through. They have access to our buildings. We encourage them. They've done training in our buildings. Any new officers, we allow them to come to our buildings to see what the layout of the buildings is, to get to know the building.
Just another
So
step.
if there is a situation, they're familiar. They have access to our cameras in an emergency situation. They cannot look at it on a day-to-day, but if there's an intruder here, they can log in and be able to give direction to their officer where to go. These crisis alert badges, if it's in a lockdown, they're automatically notified. So we've done a lot of partnerships with police and the
I will say this much, they're close. I mean, we're not talking our police station is, 10 miles away or whatever, and I know that when we have had to call them, they're here.
Do we have signs up outside in the buildings to say you're being watched or anything like that?
Yeah, and the entrances to the doors, other than the doors that were new, there's a sticker. I think the high school front does not have them yet because those doors were just recently replaced. But there's a sticker that says there's camera surveillance. So those are on the to-do list to get the new doors that will replace those stickers. So in a nutshell, lead back to what you were saying, Angela, this is kind of, if we allocate these dollars here, Gracie looks at $17,000 of unspent revenue. Is there other things the board wants me and Tammy to bring back? Because after the next meeting on June 12th, that's when she needs time to build the budget. So there were some things that...
Well, I was just, I guess, maybe if we had extra money, or we can even look at it till next year. But I just feel like and pay to participate would be a great way. I know we've talked about that many times. It's something that Margaret has happened. I just feel it would allow more students to partake in all the wonderful facilities we built and all the equipment and everything else we're putting into that. And then I also feel like just from a parent and a school board member being able to experience our athletics over the last few years, I do sometimes wonder if the athletics director position should be more of its own, because there is so much direct interface with the students and parents in that position.
So I will tell you, one of the things that we are in reconfiguring, we learned with custodians and bringing them back in-house. We're shifting the organizational chart, so the day-to-day operation of the custodian, ultimately it's Preston's responsibility. Dar will be our custodial, lead custodial, so she will direct rather than assign her to the building. We're reconfiguring that to pull some things off of his plate because of the amount.
Yes.
And we knew this year was going to be our learning curve with custodians bringing it back in-house and the amount. Not having a secretary, so Preston's picked up that too, with that vacancy. Hopefully soon we'll have a position here.
I think that custodial part, I think that's huge.
Well, that will be huge. That will be huge. And he'll still be involved in the final recordation, the hiring that, and if there are issues for evaluation, he now has someone he works with directly that can get it. Because for him to get around, and I'm not going to impress you, but it is impossible for him to get around and see every custodian on what they're doing. So he relies on work orders and so forth. Or DAR and the other structure would allow, or anybody who's in that position would be able to monitor and make sure things are getting done. So we are adjusting that with similar concepts on the
Yes, I just feel like right now our athletics department is just growing phenomenally, and students are extremely excited. Students that haven't even enjoyed sports are really getting excited in the high school even to join. So I would just like to be able to see Preston to be able to jump in there and do all you can do as an athletic director, and I'm glad to hear yes, it's the board. So thank you.
Going back to what Angela said, would it be feasible at the June 12th meeting to have information about pay to play?
We will have a ballpark.
I would like to see it.
I would see what we're paying or currently paying.
No,
What they're paying, like how much of a cost we didn't do.
if we reduced it, and I know that there's always the discussion, Mr. Trent, about that it affects volunteerism and that kind of thing, and I get that. I get it, but I do agree 8,000% with Angela about the cost of it sometimes keeps some kids from being able to participate.
So right now, the pay to play is, what, is it all one straight fee, $100?
It's $150 for $100.
Yeah, 100 for the year, middle school or high school, for regular lunch, $90 for reduced lunch, $80 for free lunch.
And it's one time.
One time for the year, not each sport.
Right, but that gets expensive if you have multiple children. And then I feel like I've seen in our own district, some parents or some families have to make the decision that only one sibling can play, you know?
And as far
Because
as,
the family can't afford to. You know?
right, and as far as though, volunteering, they can volunteer to pay the entire amount for pay to play?
The volunteer on the district side, we don't reimburse. So the things we need to run the sport, like the clock, the chain gang for football, not concession. The things to run the activity, we don't do a reimbursement. The stuff that they can get reimbursed for is like concessions where the boosters reimburse the individuals for those.
I see, so the district doesn't say, hey, if you run the clock, then we'll take $25 off of your pay to play.
We didn't, when we instituted it, no, we did not do that. But when
We
it
used
was-
to do it that way.
When it was a $150 for high school per sport, we used to do $15 per volunteer event up to what you paid.
Right, okay, yeah, not over and above, right. Yeah, money on
But you will get people who work over and above and they'll want to credit this time for this person because they weren't able to work. I mean,
Well, and
it's
more
not,
parents that are
and then they-
working and cannot do that, and then their kids don't get to be a part of the team because it's the, you know, people running the events that, you know, it becomes, I felt like the pay to participate thing became almost a way for people to get the same kids in there. I don't feel like it hit every kid because there's certain parents in our district that cannot work that money off, can only pay it, and then here I'm paying full price, and you're getting reimbursed, but then your kid gets the spot on the team because you're there volunteering and coaching and able to be, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I get
To me,
that.
I feel like coaching and volunteering is a perk. You shouldn't get reimbursed for it.
Okay, no, I
In
get
that
that.
sense.
But so then when you say that it affects the volunteering, how does it affect the volunteering then?
You want?
yes,
Yeah.
firsthand, just on the school side, let's start with there.
Yeah,
On
so-
what we need to run the events.
From the volunteer side, when the pay to play was changed over to the one fee, that's when the reimbursement went away. And it has been tough getting volunteers. We've had to get pretty creative. A lot of times, like the people that run the scoreboard for basketball or football, I'll give them a BWAC, I'll be like, hey, if you do the board for me, I'll give you a BWAC pass.
Okay.
Chain gang, BWAC pass. I mean, I'm already looking at next year, dreading it, getting those together. I mean, ticket takers is a big one. Being able to collect that money, because that's revenue we lose if we don't have somebody to put in there to do that. So,
We talked about maybe making those some kind of paid position, but you're saying then we have to take like a retirement, right?
Let me
Okay,
talk
yeah.
as just a minute. On the other flip side, on the other end, the concessions, there are some families that say, you know, 100's not that bad. I'm not going to volunteer the free concession. They don't need the reimbursement. So the boosters have said over and over, the number of volunteers that they've gotten has dramatically decreased. And then you do have that group of parents that they just work schedules, they can't put in certain things.
Okay, so the reason why the volunteering has decreased is because they're not getting like a credit towards their pay to play. Correct.
I can't, yes, but I can't say that's the only reason, because if you look at any booster group, volunteers in general, it's hard to get.
Right.
You look at your middle school PTO, your elementary PTO, your choir boosters, at the choir and band concert, they all stood up and said, we need your help, come to a meeting.
Yeah, they said that for me.
It's just,
It's not the sole reason.
It's not the sole, but it is a fee.
It might be part of the reason for some of the people that used to volunteer.
Oh,
I knew I could
sure.
get credit off.
But I guess I was confused because when Margaret said, hey, you know, let's look at what it would do to take away this pay to play, I guess I was under the impression that that would somehow negatively affect the volunteerism, but it really
Not on the
doesn't.
school because we're not reimbursing, but on the booster, there's running concessions.
But why, how so, I guess? I'm still,
Because
how
there's-
does that affect the boosters?
Because they're not getting volunteers to run them, and there could be events that they don't have people to open concessions.
But that would happen either way.
And they're paying.
Correct, but again, if you're not paying a large amount out of your pocket, there is a fine line or a tipping point that an individual makes that decision.
Oh, I see.
Something,
Okay.
$100.
You're saying like
I can
morally,
waive $100.
morally someone's like, oh, I only paid
$100.
$20, I'm gonna give them some of my time.
Right.
But in a moral aspect.
Or someone could say $150, when it was the old system, my kid played 3 sports,
I
that's
paid
$450. I want some
You
of that
figure it
back.
out.
But I think it's also creatively, this district doesn't do, and the athletic boosters, that concession stand is not just for athletics. There's many groups that the band, the choir, you could take a night, a game and do it. I'm not sure why we don't push that as a district.
And at each season sports meeting, I push that out to the parents. I say, you know, I've got volunteer opportunities, here's my sign-up sheet. The boosters have opportunities, here's their sign-up sheet. And the boosters do pay those people to work. There were quite a few events where they were like, we don't have people, or it was the booster board members doing every game because it was tough finding people.
So whatever
Right,
booster
but
club.
if the band got a football game and the band got all the money for that.
Okay, so that's my
they
question.
get
So if a
Right,
booster
that's how
club,
I
like
do
the
it.
band boosters, let's say they want to run the thing, they get a percentage or whatnot of those sales. Is that how that works?
The way it's set up right now, they get paid per shift, per person that's there. It's like a $15.
Oh, it doesn't go to the
But does it go to
program.
the organization
I don't think
directly?
so, no.
Goes to
Rather
the
than the
individuals?
person?
That's
I think
the
you
point
have
I'm
to
trying
pay
to
the
make.
organization.
If we,
And I can't speak for the booth.
Yeah. and I'm not trying to make you.
Yeah, right.
And this is a conversation for a different time, but I'll end it with, if we want to be creative and understand that that concession stand belongs to the school district, and if we want to run it for games and have it for visitors and home, then all different kinds of groups could go in, use it that night, make some money. There's a good fundraising night for some.
That's exactly what I was trying to get at, for their organization.
Doing like Little
Off-season
Caesars Arena
volleyball.
does.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I would just
Because it
caution.
belongs to everybody.
There's more than just doing that. Because now the district becomes the licensee for the food service license.
Correct.
The district is responsible now for training the people, the band boosters to go in there.
I see.
Stocking this up, because the equipment that's in there, the hot dog maker, the hot, because that belongs to the boosters. So there's some
I
costs
see.
that we would have to come up with.
Okay.
It's possible.
Oh, it's
It is
possible. We just
Because
gotta figure out how
We
to
just did it with, similarly getting the tackle league in there in the fall, because it was perceived that that building is the boosters.
Right.
Well, probably because a lot of the equipment in there is their boosters.
Well, for years, they have been the only group in it. Now we have people starting to question that, and it's putting us to rethink it.
Well, it's people wanting to use it. They want to make money for their group. I mean, that's what.
It's the same thing when I changed the locks on the concession at the softball. The RGFA thought that was their building.
Yep.
And I took a meeting on that. That is not, that is the school's building. They have been the only unit using the building, that's our problem. But it is another way of looking at it. We could coordinate signups and it's just, to go back to your question about paying, we have had the conversation about allocating dollars and paying people to work. The challenge we have, we can overcome it, but if I have an employee who works, it could put them in an overtime situation because hours work over 40 hours a week puts them in overtime from wages and hours. So take a paraprofessional who has 35 hours, they work 2 evening events that are 3 hours. That's another 6 hours. That puts them at 41 hours. That 1 hour happens to be a parapro rate, which is a different rate, puts them in an overtime situation.
Could we use like an EduStaff system and like hire specifically for like football time clock and have like a flat rate, and then maybe that would be something try to could figure out if you know, do you have people that you know would love those
It's
jobs?
possible processing someone through a third party who involves that. It's hard, but there's a lot of hurdles they have to go through that third party, because they're the employee of that third party. And
What about
someone who
high
just
schoolers? Don't they have to do like,
So we do use quite a bit of community service time. Counter, for example, will announce, we have a JV football, we have a great group of kids. Counter announces, they got a guy up their spot and the guy running the scoreboard for the JV football game. We have JV kids that will run, or varsity kids that'll do the chains for that. We've paired, for bigger games, we've paired, for our district's MHSAA events where you're not taking cash at the door. We put kids, high schoolers, with the evening event coordinator kind of floating at the door to help take tickets for some of those events. So we've gotten kind of creative. We've used the basketball managers for the boys basketball game to run the scoreboard for the JV and the freshman level. I've used the evening event facilitator to run the scoreboard for varsity games because I don't want kids sitting at that for that game. So
what
we
about other sports teams when they're not actually
Yeah, and I've
helping with their?
Yeah, I push to all the coaches, I push to all the kids. It's a topic on my presentation for every spring meeting, and I'm constantly asking coaches, I need a kid for this, I need some kids for this. There's other times I'm running around a little before the game, like, hey, what are you doing right there? Come sit here for a second, so I can go take care of this, and then I'll come back here. So it's one of those things that, is something I really, really would like to find a good system for that. To take a little bit of that headache off, and then events can run really smooth, which again are showcases for the district. So.
Thank you.
So for the next board meeting, I will bring the pay to participate costs. I guess at the next board meeting, which we have 3 weeks, as a board, we need to collectively say, are we keeping this? Are we not putting something on that list? Or is there something that comes up between now and then that you haven't thought of that we want to put on?
I did have one that I don't know where this would fall in, but renovating the restrooms, like we talked about, at least here.
My recommendation is in August, I will have pretty close to the final bond dollars that are unspent, that we have that conversation, because that would be something that could be paid out of bond dollars. I'm anticipating there's dollars there. We just have to be on what kind of priority list of.
But we're going to prioritize.
Yeah, that would be the next. So I would be coming to you as a board, saying, okay, you've got, I'm making this number up, $500,000 of unspent bond dollars. These are the items that through the process weren't on the original application that we could do, or that are now near the end of their life expectancy. And I've shared with you a couple, dividing all the elementary school, the high school bleachers at the high school. There's some doors that just did not get fixed. The locker room doors to the high school are a good example. They're in bad shape. So I will be bringing those as suggestions, and then as a board, you kind of know where your direction is going to be as far as what you want to prioritize. But I would put it there because I know we're going to have dollars there. A painting, we can do that internally. It doesn't need to be, but if you're talking about demoing tile and new urinals or sinks and all that, that's an expensive process. And those are on the to-do list for that long-term on projects that are preparing for my goals. That is on that list too. But again, I'll just leave it. At next meeting, we need to have this one finalized so that Tammy can go to work and now adjusting the budget so we can bring it to 2026 for final review and approval. Yeah, I gave you a curriculum budget. You can just kind of see we have 150,000 that we plan each year. Where math is on the docket tonight and spending. Our next line item is ELA, and then we'll start be looking in 25 to look at ancillary courses that aren't part of the core, Spanish and your other courses, to get on a curriculum cycle. And you can tell by some of these curriculums, particularly math, typically if you're going to do a K-12, 150 is not enough, but it's making a dent, significant dent what we've done in the last 3 years. So that was just more information.
I have a question. I just had it just came to my mind when I was looking, when you said the odds and ends curriculum. Do we have anything that's like remediation or support at the elementary level for reading? Like any type of supplemental curriculum, guided reading type programs? Kind of like we did with was it preschoolers? A couple months back where we approved the program where they can go in and the teachers can kind of evaluate them. Is there any type of like remediation type programs that we have at the elementary level for reading?
We have our Title I services, and then all teachers do guided reading in their reading block. So they'll differentiate and be able to do guided reading.
But no like programs per se that kids could work on at home or
There's not
in
a
the
program
classroom that a
like even
teacher
like
could
AR,
use?
accelerated reader stuff.
We just got accelerated reader that we're gonna launch next year, along with Duck Days, which is, I know sounds really exciting and fun, which I can explain later. But next year is ELA, so we're gonna be looking at like a research-based curriculum that would suffice what you're talking about.
Yeah, I was just thinking because, so my oldest skipped kindergarten. And when he skipped kindergarten, he didn't know how to read, and that was he didn't have that base of reading to go into first grade. So he was getting that extra help when he first started first grade to get that help because he was barely 5 years old. But it was a phenomenal program, and it benefited my second as well, but each individual student had to have their own login and password, and so it was something that was huge, and when I asked about it for Jackson here, it wasn't something that was around. I don't know that, like, maybe that applies to the English stuff.
Similar to what we did with math, is will be the focus. What is the tier 1 every child's getting? And then what is it that we're going to use for kids that are struggling or on the high end that are beyond the grade level? That will be the same process that we look at for next year.
Okay.
Several years ago, we put the literacy library, so the teachers got, 4th grade teachers got a 1st grade reader and a 8th grade reader. We had books available that can be used at their level, both at the middle school and at the elementary schools.
Yeah, because I had looked into it for Jackson on my own as an individual license, and the program only sells a classroom license. They don't sell like an individual license. So if I get a license, I could use it for 30 kids, but I don't have 30 kids. I have one, but I have to pay the same price. So I was just hoping we can, because that's huge for, MSTEP and that reading ability and our reading levels all the way up.
Stay tuned for next year.
Terrific.
Brian, I just have one more. Are we okay with our building supply budgets or our departmental budgets that we used to have? I know we worked on it, I know we increased it. Are we good?
We met with all the building principals and departments. We talked about supplies. We are rolling out next year, actually it'll go before the end of this year, the school specialties where the basic supplies, they will be ordered. They can either be ordered at the building or at the teacher level, saying, okay, I'm a kindergarten teacher, I need 24 crayons, 24 big pencils, 24 whatever. And it can be ship in package right to the teacher is ready. So the basic supplies that we have been asking for parents, we are trying to put that, not asking, this is a basic supply for the school. So what we've done is each building has given us a list that we're putting into the ordering system. So, as of right now, I don't see that as a need at this moment. This will be our first year, so again, we're going to have to look at that as we implement this. But the intent is, if it's a basic supply for the course, we shouldn't be asking parents for it.
How about like the teachers when they talk about their bulletin boards or their...
But those are items that are also not just like
Okay, good.
staplers, tape dispensers, rulers, protractors, calculators.
And they'll have to order them through the district? Is that how it's going to be, or?
Our intent is there's 3 logins, one for elementary, one for middle, one for high school. So if I'm a teacher at the elementary, I get the elementary login. I'm like an Amazon shopping cart. Create your name, your email, put the items you want, how many you want. It goes to the building for review, and then goes to the central office for final and approved. When the item is shipped, it's put in all one box with the teacher's name right on it, so the secretary knows this is Mr. Walmsley's stuff, this is Ms. Sean's stuff, this is Ms. Cito's stuff, so you don't have to count and sort.
Right. So, nice. Thank you.
So the directive for the board is that if we have any questions on anything that we talked tonight, they need to get with you. And we need to decide at the next meeting which ones we're going to keep or not keep or do. Anyone have a question with that on the board? Everybody understand? Okay. Okay, next item on our agenda is the superintendent district and legislative update.
Okay, I'll start with the legislative update. There's basically 3 things that are going on, and I'll talk about them in the order that they came out of Lansing. The House Labor Committee began hearing testimony on changes to PARA, which is the Public Employee Relations Act. It is House Bill 4354 and House Bill 4356. Which would basically repeal everything that was put in place, I believe it was 2011, when all the prohibited subjects of bargaining were, observation, discipline, merit pay, how to notify teachers for when you have an ineffective teacher, privatization of non-instructional support services, evaluation, layoff, recall, teacher placement. It would repeal all of those, which would then mean that they are now mandatory subjects of bargaining that we would negotiate with the groups that are affected. You might have received emails from the Michigan Association of School Board. There's many of these items that they're not. I think at the time when they were put in place, they went a little extreme. I think that's a safe statement to say. But there are some that they are opposing, and they've listed several reasons. So just watch your email regarding the Michigan Association of School Board, as well as other organizations, including the superintendent's organization group. Second thing is last Friday, the consensus revenue estimates were released. This is a group of the House and Senate fiscal agencies along with the Department of Treasury. They all kind of agree, yes, these are the assumptions that we're going to make in the budget. Estimates that have been received show a $2.7 billion for this in next year's fiscal year in the general fund is down. The school aid fund remains pretty consistent with where they projected it to be. When the general fund is down, it usually means lawmakers are looking to put more things into the school aid fund. They may increase the number of dollars that the colleges and universities allocate out of school aid, less out of the general fund. The balance, so it's always a watch. Some of the reasons for the decline in the general fund are last year, prior to the election, kind of in the lame duck session, some of these were the earned income tax credit hit, the rollback of the pension tax, which triggered income tax rollbacks, a lot of less taxes going into the coffers, which means there's less general fund dollars to allocate. Again, the good news is the school aid fund is projected to be flat, slightly up from the projections, which is good. So the governor's budget, the House budget, the Senate budget, there's money there to support those. But again, the challenge is when the general fund's done, they like to take it from the school aid fund to fill the hole in the general fund. So just watch the budget. Negotiations start really begin this week now that the revenue estimating conference is happening. The one that I'm watching, I don't know a whole lot about it because it just kind of came on the radar, is Senate Bill 169, which requires public employers to share personal information on new employees with bargaining units. I guess I'm more interested because there's a lot of stuff that we can't share unless the employee opts for us to share. The way I'm understanding and reading this is it takes the employee option out and we have to share it, which I strongly believe, I don't care what side of the aisle you are, it's my information, I just should decide who gets that information. This is unilaterally that it has to be given. So again, there's been testimony. This is why, again, I don't know a whole lot about it, I'm learning more about it. It's Senate Bill 169. It was, actually the committee approved it last Thursday. We still fall under the U.S. Supreme Court Janus decision, which public school employees are under the right to work still under the Janus decision, so that would have to change. Which that decision doesn't force the district to turn over personal information. So again, I'm just cautious on this because I don't believe anybody's personal information should be shared. With that, from a district at the county level, on May 11th, it's our last board meeting. Congratulations to Brody Balamasi, Daniel Dabrowski, Ava Moskwa, and Keegan Naper. They were class of 22 graduates last year who graduated from Macomb Community College with their associate's degree. So Mrs. Borwick and I went to the ceremony on May 11th, which actually completed it. Really cool. These kids are going to go do a lot of good things for have careers where they're heading off to. So congratulations to them. As a district, we typically postpone our Take Your Child to Work Day. It's usually in April. I think it's April 27th is usually when it's at. For the last several years, even prior to COVID, and then we couldn't do it during COVID for a while. We usually move to either Thursday or Friday before Memorial Day. This year it's this Thursday. I just sent out yesterday to staff just as a reminder that they can bring their child to work day to showcase what they're doing. We usually move it because of testing and limited number of staff we have available for testing in small group. So we always move it until after we're all done with it. So this Thursday, May 25th is Take Your Child to Work Day. The June district newsletter communicator, or actually April issue is going to be out in late May, should be hitting the doorstep soon. To watch for that, it will be it's a 20-page communicator newsletter. So the district goes to every household in our 4 townships in the city of Richmond. It's about, I would say it's about 9,000 households it goes to. Thank the Richmond Rotary for their donation of the Peace Bowl. If you haven't seen it, it's out there. The little ceremony. The kids were phenomenal, just understanding. And it's really, I know there's a lot of meaning in the initial reason why the Peace Bowl started many years ago. But for us as Richmond, as I said during that ceremony, it's just a symbol that everybody's accepted, no matter your economic background, your religious background, your ethnicity background, everybody's accepted here in Richmond. A couple things at Lee Elementary School, students are showing a great success. They showed great success on NWA. We're really pleased with the initial results. Preschool students are enjoying their end of the year social on May 31st. Preschool graduation is on December 1st, 9 o'clock to 3-year-olds.
June 1st. June 1st.
What did I say?
December.
June 1st. 9 o'clock to 3-year-olds and 1 o'clock for 4-year-olds. Thank you for listening. The child care furniture has been arriving. That was part of that child care stabilization grant. The kids love the new chairs and couches in the child care, before and after school child care room. The cement has been poured for the new pavilion that's going outside. The actual pavilion will get installed right after school gets out. It's going to be a really cool area. The grass was planted in that courtyard. You can see some of the straw where the tractors all kind of tore up on the south side of Lee. The staff put their fingerprints by one of the doors and kind of mark them on that walkway. So there's a lot of excitement in that project. Middle school, M-STEP is done. Extremely proud of their efforts. We look forward to the final results. They're finishing NWA, I believe it's this week, and then all the spring testing will be done. Fifth graders visited the Wondering Schoolhouse. Based on the pictures, it looks like they all had a great time. Middle school track team competed several meets and just was outstanding. I got to actually see part of that event the other day. May 17th, the middle school honored the class of 23 graduates. They walked through the middle school after the captain grounds here at the high school. They walked over to the middle school. They got a clap out at the middle school, and then they went from the middle school to the elementary school. So the class of 36 all the way up got to see all these big kids graduate. It was pretty cool. The fun run is this Thursday. They're raising money for Canine Warriors. Middle school. High school competitions for last Thursday. An hour and a half ceremony. I think this is Zabo and Mrs. Bohr putting the first one they've done together. They're doing this job. It's pretty impressive to hear all the recognition kids are getting and the scholarships they've received. Just a reminder, graduation is this Wednesday at 24th at 7 p.m. at the Macomb Center for Performing Arts. Graduation starts at 7. If the board can be there by 6:30, please plan ahead. There's a lot of sometimes traffic on Gratiot gets backed up or expressway, just kind of plan from that angle. Band and choir finished their end of the year concerts last May 11th and May 17th. At both performances, the graduates recognized they really did an outstanding job. AP testing is included at the high school. On May 13th, after our last board meeting, I got to go to the SC4 art show, where a lot of our students were awarded honors and so forth. It's the Congressional Art Show that they host there. It just takes you really get in perspective how much talent we have in this district, whether it's at the Little Mermaid show or the artists or the choirs, we have a lot of talent in this district. At the next board meeting, just a reminder, there will be a reception at 6:30 to honor our 3 retirees. Mrs. Lepak, Mrs. Studer, and Mrs. Schroeder are the 3 retirees. Mrs. Staples, you got your 2 items you want to share? We did summer learning camp registrations last Friday.
Yeah, so that was a lot of fun. Thank you to all the teachers and staff that worked that event. We had just a fantastic turnout. I really thought that, we literally were registering students up until 6:55 that night, which was amazing. Last year we had around a total of 145 total students enroll in summer school. And Friday alone, we registered 148 students.
Wow.
And that is not including sending home registration forms that went home with families today as well. So it was a very successful event. Everybody had a great time, and we're just looking forward to having this wonderful camp this summer. And the second thing is we are hosting for the first time our summer learning workshop series, professional development workshop series for teachers over the summer. And they proposed a workshop to be able to host. It could be for new and existing teachers. And as of right now, we already have 48 spots filled up with our existing teachers that are wanting to come in over the summer to either get a head start on some math or like some early literacy. We have Power School that's going to be happening over the summer. So kudos to our teachers that want to also learn more, always learners, so it's cool.
And finally, thank you, Mrs. Staples. And finally, I'd just like to personally thank the board, publicly thank the board, for the amazing staff appreciation event that took place on May 13th. I know not everybody was able to attend. It's our first year kind of doing this type of thing, but I safely say those that attended had a great time. And it was a chance to kind of talk to people outside of our normal comfort level. I danced with people on the dance floor I probably would never have danced with before, but it was really good. I know it was a lot of work putting it together, so I just want to thank you for that event. That's it.
So Connor, next time when we do have you here, that's the spot in the agenda where you would fall in right after Mr. Walmsley. Okay. You're welcome. Okay, next item on our agenda is items of interest from the board. Candace?
I just wanted to thank all of the parents who volunteered their items for the middle school PTA, for the parent, or for the teacher appreciation week. That was a very successful week for the teachers. And also anyone who helped with the Just Go's greenhouse fundraiser. We pulled that one off in 2 weeks, the middle school PTA, and it was pretty successful there too. So just thanks to all the parents and teachers actually too that have helped with the fundraising for the middle school this year. It was very nice year.
Thank you.
And I
Oops,
think
I'm
that's
sorry.
it. Oh, and also super excited for the middle school field day that's tonight, and Coach Grella and I believe Coach Dave are all helping. I'm really excited to see how that turns out for all the middle schoolers. Sounds like it's going to be yeah, that's it.
Sandy?
I just want to say when I went to the Little Mermaid play and I was able to look at all of the artwork there, and I was blown away by several pieces. And then I look at the grade. It was like, oh my God, this is like a second grader. They did this so much better than I could. I just never would have guessed. And there is a lot of talent here in our school with that. And I just, I wanted to say, I did take pictures of a few pieces that I thought were pretty exceptional, but just wanted to say that, everybody in general, like that was a lot. It was really cool. It's cool to see a lot of things I don't know that we ever did in the past, like pottery, things like that are.
A new kiln.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool to see on display. And then I unfortunately wasn't able to go to the award ceremony, but I did watch it, so that was awesome that we did that. I didn't watch it live, I watched it later, but it is always, I think, to me, always such an emotional, evening, just speaking personally, I guess, that's always been so much more emotional for me than the actual commencements. And just to see all of the kids, all of the students, all of their hard work and all of their awards, and kids we haven't seen maybe in years or something, and like, oh my gosh, I don't know. So it was really cool to be able to watch it because I couldn't attend. So.
Helen?
I just want to say I like the table setup. As you guys noticed, we've changed it around a little bit. It is nice to actually see the people as we are having conversations up here instead of trying to yell across the whole table. So I just wanted to point that out, and that's the reason why the tables have been changed, so we can conduct a meeting actually looking at each other.
Angela?
I'm all set, thank you.
Danielle?
Yeah, so I have two things. One, I went on the kindergarten field trip to Stony Creek last week, and I have to say it was amazing. They did a really good job. Stony Creek did a really good job of educating the students and doing like a little 1 hour presentation and keeping kindergartners' attention for an hour with a turtle that was trained to come to bananas. But it was a lot of fun. I talked to Ms. Lombard, and she said it was the first time they'd ever done that field trip, and I think it should be done every year. They did a really, really good job with that field trip. And then the kids still got to play and have a little picnic for an hour, hour and a half afterwards too. So that was super good. And then the other thing is kind of not Richmond related, but education related. So this week, most of you know at this point, and to the general public that I teach, but our principal introduced us to an app called, I'm trying to get the name of it. I think it's like Microsoft Lens or PowerPoint Lens. It says Lens in the app. But kind of piggybacking off of my comments earlier about reading and comprehension, you can turn, for teacher's reference or parent's reference even, you can turn any document, even like the sheet of paper, into a PDF, and most of us know that we can do that in the notes section or in our phones at this point. But what the app does is it takes it and you can make it an immersive reader, so it will read the entire document to you. And then there's options where you can have it highlight all of the nouns one color, highlight all of the adjectives another color, highlight all this, that, like there's a bunch of different options. And when my principal introduced it to us last week, she just kind of posted it on our school's Facebook page. But I took one of Jackson's books out of the cupboard and took a picture of it, and it instantly like read me his book, and it literally took less than 30 seconds to read the page in the book. So I thought that was really helpful, or could be really helpful to teachers who might have a struggling student, or parents at home who might have a struggling student, or parents like me that struggle with parts of speech when they get an English assignment, because I teach math. You get an English assignment of what's an adverb or what's an adjective, but the app was, I played around with it for less than 5 minutes and was just blown away by it, and now I think it would be super beneficial to kind of any student or any teacher or parent in the district.
Do you know, Danielle, if there was a charge for it?
There's no charge. No, there's no charge at all. I downloaded it and had a picture of Jackson's book and played with it within 5 minutes. There's no charge. It was a free app.
Thank you. Margaret?
I should have done it during the rave, so I apologize, but I wanted to acknowledge Miss Zabo, Miss Borwick, and Mrs. Shegna from the award ceremony the other night. I was in attendance, and it was just very well done, very well organized, people that were presenting. There was a little section reserved for us, so you knew where you were supposed to sit if you were presenting a scholarship or something. But you know, every kid got recognized, and it is kind of neat when you're looking and thinking, oh, I know that kid, or you know, now I'm putting the face to the name. But it was just very well done and a really good night for our seniors. So I thank them for that.
I was trying to get the name.
Thank you, Margaret.
Yep.
The only thing that I have is, I too was going to mention what Kelly did about our tables. I think our audience needs to know that this was part of our workshop that we did back in January. We talked about how we would like to change our seating arrangements. So I want to just thank Mr. Walmsley and whoever else was involved in seeing our vision out and in place. And I agree that I love that I can see people. My second
And the
item
skirt's
is,
great.
Yes.
Thanks for the skirt back.
It's my favorite part.
I received a thank you card that was addressed to the board. Hi board members, thank you for the appreciation dinner and entertainment on Saturday night. What a fun time, and I'm new as of March, so I got to meet you face to face and know your names. And this is from Bernie, is it Weiner? Weiner. So I just wanted to share that with you. Okay.
Lunch aid at the elementary school.
Yeah.
And just as a side note, Ms. Barb at the high school, I hope she won't get upset that I said this, but the next day she wrote a note to Mrs. Abel that said, if I was to pass away on Saturday, they would have to cremate me with a smile on my face because it was the best night ever. She had a really good time. So, hopefully we might want to consider this again next year. If we, I don't know if anybody plugs, but I think a lot of staff have talked about it. I think we might have more extra.
Thank you. Our next item on our agenda is public comments. Since the last board meeting, I had received 2 emails from the public, both regarding the track board and record. I did respond via email to both parties. At this time, any member of the public may address the board. Please sign in and state your name. You will have 3 minutes to address the board. Are there any public comments? Being no public comments, we will move on. The next item is our action items. I will start off, we're going to start off with the approval of the K-12 math curriculum. Mr. Walmsley.
At the last meeting, Mrs. Staples presented the math curriculum. Since that time, I had some questions regarding the board. Mr. Telto had some questions. Mrs. Staples responded, and the board should have also gotten that one. Mrs. Cunningham asked to meet with us, so Ms. Staples and I met with us. We talked about, and help me out if I forget something, we talked about Tier 1 instruction in the math. The intent of the program is that it gives everybody the same guaranteed curriculum. And then in the program, there were interventions for kids that were struggling. There were some questions regarding where does that information go. It stays right in the district. We don't report that to the state, other than if we have to identify who our Title I kids are, the number, and that we do every year. But as far as what we do with them, where they are, the number, if they're at level 1, they should be at level 5. We don't report any of that to the state. Trying to get back to memory.
For the accelerated children too, it has its own.
Yeah, we talked about for the accelerated, the components of that. There were some, we talked, not necessarily on the map, but we talked a little bit about kind of the future of schools and this whole AI technology and where that may go, and where brick and mortar schools will be in the future and so forth. And, I think we both, I personally agree that schools will look different in 20 years than they do today. I think that's a given, as they look different now than what they were 20 years ago. So I think those are the broad topics.
Just the tier 2, going to the tier 2 level, just kind of that discussion from tier 1.
Yeah, so identify when kids aren't meeting it, so we would identify what kids are tier 2 or needing interventions, or higher they've got it, how do we push them farther? That was all in the materials. That was it. And other than that, I didn't have any other questions regarding the math curriculum. So the question that Mrs. Telto asked, or Boardman Telto, was regarding the K-5 is a pilot. They have one, or in some cases, all grade levels are piloting it. That's part of the cost. They want to make sure this is what they are doing. So the intent is, and I fully believe that's what they're going to come out as. It will be a full K-12 next year when we bring that after the pilots.
Thank you for
So with that, I'm requesting that the board approve the K-12 math curriculum and instructional materials. In your folder, I gave you the layout of the curriculum documents in terms of the pacing guide, what the topics or the units, what standards are in each unit, the power standard, if you want to call them that. That's it.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion.
I move to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the K-12 mathematics curriculum developed by district representatives and Envision Instructional Resources from SAVIS in the amount of $118,718.47, for which from the fiscal year 2023 general fund is authorized and outlined in the attached documentation. Furthermore, up to $40,864.80 shall be allocated from the fiscal year 2024 general fund as outlined in the attached documents.
Do I have support?
support.
Candace? Any discussion? Okay, this is a roll call vote. Margaret?
Aye.
Candace?
Aye.
Kelly? Aye. Sandy? Aye. Angela? Aye. Danielle?
Aye.
Deb? Aye. Motion carries. Okay, I'm looking for the approval of a wrestling overnight extended trip request to Urbana, Ohio. Mr. Walmsley?
At the last board meeting, Mr. Day presented a request for an overnight wrestling trip to Jeff Jordan's state championship camp in Urbana, Ohio.
I'm looking for a motion.
I move to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the overnight trip request by Brandon Day, wrestling coach, for the wrestling program to attend the Jeff Jordan State Championship Camp in Urbana, Ohio from June 12th, 2023 to June 15th, 2023.
Do I have support?
Support.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We're looking for the approval of a wrestling overnight extended student trip request to Orlando, Florida.
At the last board meeting, Mr. Day also presented a request for the board to approve an overnight trip to the wrestling program to attend the Disney Duels in Orlando, Florida.
I'm looking for a motion.
I motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the overnight trip requested by Brandon Day, wrestling coach, for the wrestling program to attend Disney Duels in Orlando, Florida from June 21st, 2023 to June 26th, 2023.
Do I have thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'm looking for approval of a football overnight extended student trip request to Olivet, Michigan.
At the last board meeting, Mr. Misko, our football coach, varsity football coach, requested an overnight trip for the football program to attend Olivet College in Olivet, Michigan.
I'm looking for a motion.
I motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the overnight trip request by Sean Misko, the varsity football coach. Presented a request for an overnight trip for the football program to attend Olivet College in Olivet, Michigan from July 24th, 2023 to July 26th, 2023.
Do I have support?
Support.
Any discussion? Yes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Looking for the approval of a basketball overnight extended student trip request to Midland, Michigan.
At the last board meeting, Mr. Shorman, girls basketball coach, presented a request for an overnight trip for the program to go to Northwood University girls basketball camp in Midland, Michigan.
I'm looking for a motion.
A motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the attachment resolution. This is the wrong one. I'm sorry.
I move to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the overnight trip request by Brian Shorman, varsity girls basketball coach, for an overnight trip for the basketball program to attend Northwood University girls basketball camp in Midland, Michigan from July 18th to July 20th, 2023.
Do I have support?
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'm looking for the approval of a resolution of support for the Macomb Intermediate School District fiscal 2024 budget.
At the last board meeting, board member Fortuna Cunningham presented the MISD's budget. The recommendation was to accept the recommendation and approve the budget as presented with no issues.
I'm looking for a motion.
I motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the attached resolution of the support of the Macomb Intermediate School District fiscal year 2024 budget as presented in the attached documentation.
Sorry. Do I have a second?
Support.
Okay. Who was? I'm going to do
Candace and I both
Give
said
it to Danielle.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And there's Ms. Michelle, I need to abstain, so you have to redo that.
Sorry. Forgot about that one. Okay, so I need, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Anyone
Abstain.
Abstain.
I abstain because I'm an employee of the Macomb Intermediate School District.
Thank you. Motion still carries. Okay, I'm looking for approval of a resolution designating electoral representative and candidate section for the MISD biannual election meeting.
I move to direct board member Candace Cunningham and/or board member, no, it's Kelly's first, right?
No, Candace is
Okay,
first.
I move to direct board member Candace Cunningham and/or board member Kelly O'Donnell as the electoral representative and alternative electoral representative for Richmond Community Schools to cast a vote on behalf of this Board of Education for Tanya Franz and Brian White at the Macomb Intermediate School District biennial election meeting on June 5th, 2023, as outlined in the attached resolution.
Do I have support?
Support.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'm looking for the approval of the class of 2023 graduates.
In your packet is the class of 2023 graduates who have met the graduation requirements that are expected to graduate and participate in graduation on Wednesday. There are several that will not graduate by or not complete the requirements by the 24th, but will complete them over the summer, which would still make them a 23 graduate. So that's where they accept those that are indicated because they haven't met the requirements to participate in graduation at this moment.
So this resolution is where all these kids have, the ones with asterisks, they haven't met the requirements yet. So all we're approving are those that are actually going to participate in graduation.
Yeah, so if we accept those that
Accept those
indicated. in the
Right, so
resolution.
then what happens with those kids if they meet? Do we come back here in August and recognize them as being graduates?
That would be what my plan
Okay.
is that they are officially recognized as
So we would do it
graduates.
then. Okay, sorry that I
So
just.
are they not, none of these students will be walking on graduation day, is that what you're saying?
The ones with asterisks are down.
Do I have a motion?
Except those indicated, I motion to approve the class of 2023 graduates who have successfully met the requirements for graduation as set forth by the Richmond Community Schools Board of Education in the state of Michigan as outlined in the attached documentation. Graduation will be held at the Macomb Center for the Performing Arts at 7 o'clock in the evening on Wednesday, May 24th, 2023.
Support.
Any discussion?
Have we done this before?
We haven't, but
Okay,
we
I was
should be.
We should
We
be.
should be.
All right.
That's one of the things that's going with the new policies from True, and
Okay.
that the board should be recognized in their graduates. I mean, you officially do it when I
At the
turn over at the ceremony.
Right, but not all of us are there all the time, so yeah, that's
So-
perfect.
But it makes it a little more official by getting the resolution.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Before you do the closed session, just for the record of the minutes, the app online says Microsoft Lens PDF scanner.
Thanks.
Microsoft Lens, it says PDF scanner, but it does a million times more than PDF scanner.
Okay, at this time, I'm looking for a motion to go into closed session.
Pursuant to Section 8C of the Michigan Open Meeting Act, I move that the Board of Education go into closed session for the purpose of negotiations.
Do I have support? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'm just letting our audience know that when we come back, we will just be adjourning.